initiate chaos theory guarantees that we'll play like lightning shots, sounding like thunder. For every time in the face that it hits us, we're faster. Well, they should know by now. They see the world keeps trying to shake us. It only wakes us. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. It's in a beautiful darkness. Napoleon another. It's full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. All aboard the Betty Express. Misdirected from the start. It's a runaway train. I come a freight train. I come a freight train. In a beautiful darkness, the Betty Express. In a beautiful darkness.
Y'all brace yourself. We've got more of Tanner's special needs teachers. Now, this one is going to be for his high school career. And then we've got, well, his pastor and then one of his ex-girlfriends that still claims him for reasons I don't understand. But that's what we are looking at today. Middle daughter is doing fine with dental stuff. And thank you, Dan Davis. I do have a Rumble stream up, and we came home just in the nick of time. If you are in the Midwest and, you know, in the path of the storms coming through, apparently everyone was watching Ryan Hall because the Walmart was crazy. And yes, it is the Walmart. If you know me, I am Midwestian. It's the Walmart. But let's jump into this and get going. But the defense is still going on poor Tanner's childhood. Oh. Howdy, howdy. Now, it's interesting that his ex-girlfriend had to be subpoenaed, and she makes it quite clear. So we are going to have his high school special needs teacher. We are going to have a pastor of his when he was also in high school. Now, this pastor also went to see him when he was in jail after he got, well, caught for this case. And then right when I was driving in, we've got an ex-girlfriend.
Ladies and gentlemen, this witness has been previously sworn to testify truthfully. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Marie, we are going to call you by your preferred name and not provide any full name, but what I'd like you to do is just introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Marie, and I know Mr. Horner as a special educator in Hazel ISD.
What did you do at Hazel ISD?
As I stated, I was a special educator. I became the special ed department head, and I worked with students in the learning lab, or what some districts call content mastery, and also shadowed some students in classrooms.
What is a learning lab or content mastery?
It's a place where students can come to get extra assistance, maybe have things read to them, or explained to them further.
And if you can pull the microphone just a little bit closer to you so we can make sure that everybody can hear you, okay? You a little nervous this morning?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This your first time testifying?
I've testified before.
Anything like this, though?
No.
Marie, you mentioned content mastery and that kids can come there to get help. What kind of help would be provided in a content mastery setting?
They might get reading assistance. They might also have things broken down or explained to them.
Madeline, no, I haven't. I did wash my hair, but it's probably fading. It's not as bright red, and I have all my lights on, so I probably need to re-read it soon.
On a more basic level. Sometimes help with vocabulary.
Can any student come to content mastery?
Actually, in Azle ISD, any student could come to content. So we didn't just serve special education students, we also serve 504 students and general education students if they ask the teacher to come.
Generally speaking, how many students use the content mastery program while you were there?
That would be difficult to answer, I think. But I mean, we had a large majority of students that used it, probably primarily 504 and special education students. But I mean, on any given day, at any given hour, there could be 20 plus students in that classroom.
You've mentioned 504 a couple of times. Tell the jury what a 504 is.
504 would be things like dyslexia, ADHD, things that can fall under special education, but if a student achieves to a certain level, they may be ARDed out, which stands for admission review and dismissal. But the thing that I believe is powerful about 504 is it does not go away when a child graduates, whereas special education does.
Did Tanner Horner have a 504?
He did not have a 504. He was a special education student.
You mentioned that there could be upwards of 20 students in there. How many teachers would be available for those 20 students? I mean, what was the teacher to student ratio?
Typically, there might only be one teacher in the room, but we also had 2 to 3 paraprofessionals that were there to assist as well.
Were you ever working as an inclusion specialist while at Azle ISD?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is an inclusion specialist?
That is someone who goes into the classroom to basically shadow the students. Oftentimes, we would stay there while the lesson was given, but if they had an assignment to complete, it was at our discretion if we stayed in the classroom or if we actually took them to content mastery to complete that assignment.
What would you do for them in the classrooms?
Sometimes we were there just to help keep them on task. And at times, the teacher might defer to us for us to give an explanation and to help teach the lesson.
Tell me more about that. You said help explain the lesson or to even teach it. Why would a student need someone like you to teach the lesson that they have a teacher in the classroom that's already teaching it?
Because we don't all learn the same way. Sometimes we need something explained in a way that we need things broken down. And I saw that as a benefit, not just to the special education students, but to all the students.
When you were with Azle ISD, were you an inclusion specialist for Tanner?
That's going to be hard for me to answer because I'm trying to remember when inclusion started. And if I were, he would have been probably on the.
I do believe, and this is just because I was looking at going into education around 2002, and right around there, the early aughts. Matlin, wait a minute. So is defense going to show he is brain damaged? So they did show where he does have lower function or lower electrical impulses in his, I believe it was a CT scan, but with a special sort of radiological glucose marker so they could see which parts of the brain lit up, and then which were lower functioning. So I believe they've already put that in there. The one thing that I haven't noticed, other than just talking about his autism or his diagnosis, we haven't had an expert talk about autism yet. I anticipated we would get more experts today. I thought that maybe we would get one with fetal alcohol syndrome and then possibly autism, but it seems that we're going to get more character witnesses. I do hope that at the end of today, we get the defense rests.
Beginnings of that inclusion support.
Well, Marie, during your time with Azle ISD, did you work with Tanner?
I did.
And how did you come to know him?
Basically, he would come to content and we would be there to help assist. So, let's say he came in for a history lesson or a science lesson, we would sit down and it wasn't typically just him. He probably came with a group and we would sit down with that group and maybe read some of the content again with them and then try to help them answer the questions that the teacher had sent for them to complete.
When you first met Tanner, what was your first impression of him?
He was a pleasant young man.
Did he ever talk to you about his home life?
Not a lot, but also remember I said I was the special education department head. So I probably attended I can't swear to all, but the majority of his ARD meetings. And again, that's admission, review, and dismissal. So I got to know my students pretty well. So
How often would these ARD meetings take place?
at least once a year, but sometimes on occasion, maybe more than that.
When you have these ARD meetings, who attends?
The guardian is always invited, obviously, a parent and or guardian. There's always at least one special educator in the room that has them in class, as well as a CTE teacher, their career-oriented teacher had to attend, and then obviously regular education teachers would attend.
What is the purpose of the ARD meeting?
To review a student's accommodations, to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to meet their needs in the classroom.
When Tanner had his ARD meetings, do you recall who attended?
As I recall, I might have met Mom on 1 or 2 occasions, but typically it was his grandmother that attended.
And what were your impressions of his grandmother?
She's a very sweet lady.
Did his grandfather ever attend?
Yes.
And what was your impression of him?
Again, he was always pleasant.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, ma'am.
Maria, I'm going to hand you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit number 75. We'll just take a look at this.
Yes, ma'am. Educational record and the districts that he attended throughout the time that he was in school. And it looks like he came to Azle in 6th grade.
The defense offers Defense Exhibit number 75, which has been on file the requisite amount of time and has been previously tendered to the state.
We're good, John. Okay, states, defendant 75 is submitted.
Now, Marie, have you seen these records before?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you review them in preparation for your testimony today?
Briefly, yes.
Now, Marie, when you were with Azle AISD, how did they code their special education classes?
Well, for a period of time, you were able to look at a transcript and tell the difference between a special ed class and a regular ed class. But then we kind of slid into a period of time where the state required that everything look more consistent. And so unless you were on the teacher side, you really couldn't tell the difference.
Can you tell the difference when you look at the transcript? Or I guess, let me ask it this way. Can you tell us whether Tanner Horner was in special education classes?
I'm going to tell you by looking at the transcript, it's very difficult to tell, but I know that he was, yes.
You mentioned that the school board
Wasn't
want to kind of draw attention to special ed. You want kind of consistency, I think was the word.
the school board, it's TEA more than,
TEA.
yes.
Okay. With, why would TEA not want to make it obvious that a child was in special education?
John, I apologize, that calls for speculation.
State.
Yeah. I have noticed today more than any other that the defense is sliding into things more like societal things, like, oh my goodness, they're making a point to remind the jury today that Tanner didn't receive any additional, support or, I guess, a minder for lack of a better term, when he graduated high school. So despite getting all of these accommodations, once he graduated, he was on his own.
Based upon your training and experience with dealing with special education students, have you observed them being treated differently than mainstream students?
At times, yes.
In looking at Tanner's records there, are there any categorizations which may have indicated that he needed any sort of special services? And specifically, I'm asking, does it notate anywhere that he may have a learning disability or a neurodevelopmental disorder?
And these particular records that I have here, no ma'am.
And based upon your experience with Tanner, are you aware of any learning disability that he may have?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you aware that, or are you aware of any neurodevelopmental diagnosis that he may have?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that diagnosis?
Well, I know he was a student he was classified as a student with a learning disability. I can't tell you the subject it was in. I just remember that. And I also know that he was considered.
Okay, look, I don't want kids to get bullied. I was bullied, but does anyone give a rat's ass if Tanner got made fun of in high school for being, uh, let's be real. He was probably made fun of because he was in special needs classes, and that's not right. But does anyone care? I don't. He got to have a high school. Matlin, what I believe the defense is capitalizing on is the fact that you had this very, very sympathetic and very knowledgeable, no-nonsense woman make the statement that he should not have been in that truck alone. I imagine that he should not have been in that truck alone is going to be a major thorough line of the defense's closing. I believe that they are going to present that Tanner was profoundly handicapped, not somewhat, not to where he could quasi-functionally have a good life, but to the point where he should have had in-home health care. I believe that they are going to paint the picture that he should not, he was so profoundly impacted by his mental or his diagnoses that he should not have been on his own, that this was a failure of society, of the state, or whoever can take away agency from Tanner making a big mistake. I do expect that is going to be the main thorough line of their argument. And I find that to be incredibly offensive because if you listen to the testimony of this teacher, he was not profoundly impacted. He was verbal. He was able to carry on conversations. There might have been something noticeably a little off about him, but no one would have, assumed that he was so disturbed as to do what he did. And I do imagine that the defense is going to use this as a thorough line.
On the autism spectrum.
To your knowledge, did anyone, without naming names, did anyone at the school perform an evaluation to make that determination?
Well, yes, ma'am. Otherwise, they couldn't be under that heading.
So in order to have that heading of autism or learning disabled, the school themselves would have had to have done an evaluation?
Yes, a diagnostician would have evaluated him, and probably an LSSP would have also evaluated him.
So somebody just couldn't come in there and say, hey, I'm autistic, or hi, I have a learning disability, put me in these classes? No.
And here's the part that really, really pisses me off. Watching and interacting with you guys and kind of doing a deep inventory in the last week, I realized, holy crap, I may have some Spielberg tendencies. In fact, that was the main thing that when I talked to you guys this morning about telling Mr. Moe when I get overwhelmed, knowing that maybe I have some of these tendencies and I've probably had them all my life doesn't give me an excuse to go ahead and choose to be a butt monkey to Mr. Moe because I'm overwhelmed. No, that means, oh, hey, Moe, you really, really struggle with this, take a moment and then try to use your words. That's what it means. That's all it means. If you have autism or anything else, if you are functional to the point that you can get a driver's license or anything else, generally you have learned coping mechanisms yourself, or you are able to function 85% in the normal world. But it doesn't give you an excuse.
Doesn't happen that way.
And has a process?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And if they don't meet the criteria, would they be allowed to be in those programs?
Judge, I'll object as to leading this witness.
Don't leave your witness. You may answer the question.
You may have to restate the question, I'm sorry.
In order to be in the program, would you have to have a diagnosis?
Yes.
With regards to other things that were within your knowledge related to Tanner, were you aware of any, I guess, category or characterization or anything regarding emotional disturbance?
I do believe that that had been on his record before, but as I recall, it wasn't on his record when he was at the high school.
Why would something like that change?
Well, we put students in certain programs to hopefully teach them some coping skills so that they can be more integrated into the regular classroom. And so if they don't need to be in a certain setting, we follow least restrictive. So we allow them to, to maybe not be in a behavior classroom any longer, but to actually be in a more regular classroom.
What kind of behavior would get you placed in the category of having an emotional disturbance?
Oftentimes it was anger outburst and or struggling with interacting with your peers.
And you said that you taught a student could be taught coping skills. What kind of coping skills are generally taught?
Well, obviously when they would be angry, once we could get them to a calm place, then we would, try to walk them through how could you have maybe handled this differently, or what might be a way to, arrive at a healthy decision. A lot of choices, we talked about choices a lot.
And what this indicates to me, and JKD Buck and I were texting back and forth because I was like, I don't care. But he was able to be redirected. If you are profoundly affected by autism, you might not be able to respond to verbal commands. You might not even be verbal. Yes, in that case, you might need increased, very, very technical interventions, but Tanner wasn't that. And I'm tired of them trying to push his Asperger's or spectrum disorder to be something it's not, because there are people that are profoundly affected by autism that in the normal course of everything do not become violent. Again, when they are overwhelmed, misunderstood, they can react violently, but their first choice isn't violence. And I hate that they're trying to use, again, almost trying to mask his slight or very much high functioning autism with these more dramatic, more impactful autism symptoms. Dark Lotus, thank you. I'm trying to say it again. I never want to be offensive about mental health, but I don't like to dance around language. He's not low functioning. Thank you.
What does the fact that someone begins the school year? Not me, Your Honor.
Not me either, but I don't know. Go ahead.
Anyway, so Marie, if someone began the school year with emotional disturbance, noted in their records, and then at the end of the school year or at the beginning of the next school year, it is no longer noted, what does that tell you about what that student was able to do throughout the year?
Well, that would tell me that they must have learned some skills so that notation was allowed to be removed, but it also would tell me that they had an R meeting in order to remove that accommodation.
Now, Marie, you talked a little bit about content mastery and that you worked with Tanner in content mastery. Do you recall what classes he would have needed help in?
I believe he primarily used the lab for science and social studies because I'm pretty sure that he was in a more special ed setting.
I don't wanna know about this. If the defense is going to bring any expert that would convince me, say I am not for the death penalty, but, they were wanting to really make a case that Tanner is not going to be a problem in Gen Pop for the rest of his life. You know what I would wanna hear as a juror? A psychologist that has examined Tanner and said, "Okay, this is why he predates on younger women. This seems to be his target victim profile. In the absence of any women around, he should be fine." That's what I would like to know. If you are going to sell me that he is not going to be a continuing danger in the prison system, and I were in any way inclined to go against capital punishment, that's the kind of witness I wanna hear. I wanna hear, "Okay, so when Tanner is what are Tanner's triggers with his autism? What are the things that stress him out?" Again, I don't care if he was bullied in high school. But those would be the legitimate, logical things that I would want addressed if I were in any way persuadable, and the defense is bringing on people that were not relatively close. They were not close to him during the time of this incident, and a lot can change from high school.
For some of his core subjects due to them being subject to statewide assessment.
What do you mean statewide assessment?
Well, STAR testing now, but I believe he was probably under, can't remember. He could have been under text instead of STAR.
Why would Tanner need help with this? Why would he need those content mastery classes?
Oftentimes they would read rather quickly and not necessarily glean from the written information the content that they might need to answer a question. And so oftentimes it was about trying to get them to slow down and actually maybe read the questions ahead of time and look for the answer in the material that they were reading.
Could you tell if it helped him?
Oh, I have no doubt it helped him, yes.
And why do you say that?
Because he could be successful. Whereas if he was left to complete the assignment on his own, not just him, but a lot of students would rush through it and not do as well.
How long was Tanner in your content mastery classes?
I feel probably throughout his high school career.
When he was in your classroom, how did he behave?
Typically the way he should. But I do recall on occasions there might be times that he had to be redirected.
Again, occasions. This was not an everyday occurrence. She does not have memory of him being a constant problem. He was high functioning. The end.
What do you mean by redirecting?
Well, where might have to say, you need to be on task, or, you need to act appropriately. You need to, again, make good choices. Think about what you're doing, what you're saying.
Were there ever any instances where he failed to act appropriately?
Yes, but typically with him, once he was redirected once or twice, he did what he was expected to do.
Did you find that he was easy to redirect,
Usually, yes.
but not always? Is
Not always.
that typical for a teenage boy?
Well, yeah, I would say so.
Now, Marie, you had the opportunity to watch Tanner throughout his 4 years of high school. I want to talk to you about his ability to reason through things. How would you describe Tanner?
This is going to be another witness where, again, being a good witness, both this witness and the pastor are going to get presented with what the real facts in this case are. And it is glaring that the defense didn't talk to them about this. The fact that you have multiple witnesses that were subpoenaed by the defense, obviously wanting to keep their identities anonymous, you would have thought they would have done the courtesy of letting them know exactly what this man did, because many of these witnesses are still under the impression that Tanner ran into this little girl. And I don't know what kind of look, we can disagree with tactics and strategies, but how dare you use these people as human shields, quite literally, without letting them know what they're co-signing?
His ability to reason through his problems or problem solve.
He usually could come to a good conclusion given enough time. But I think if he felt pressured to have to make a split second decision, he didn't always make the best choice. And that's where those redirections would come from.
And if there were no redirections, what would happen?
I'm not sure he would always make the best choice.
How was he in relation to the other students? Was he able to problem solve when issues came up with the other students?
Most of the time, but I think there might have been a few instances where he didn't. I mean, I feel like, and I'm not sure if it's a part of this record or not, but I know that he did get into some trouble, at the high school.
Based upon your observations of Tanner, do you feel that his emotions would ever affect his ability to reason?
Yes.
And why?
Like everyone in the human population, seriously, again, I suffer from self-diagnosed, self-invented, current dramatic stress. For the love of Cheetos.
Why do you say that?
Because I think if he got over angry or maybe felt like justice wasn't being served to a peer, more so a peer than maybe even himself, that he might act in a way that wasn't, what he would do otherwise.
Did you ever see him act out in that manner?
Yes.
How often did you see that with Tanner?
It was pretty rare. Maybe once or twice in the time that I recall him being while he was at the high school.
In the 4 years that you spent with Tanner, did you ever see him get physically aggressive with anybody?
I know there was an instance that happened, but I don't believe I saw it. I don't think I witnessed it.
When Tanner would become upset or have these instances that you were talking about, was he able to calm down on his own, or would he need someone else to help him?
He oftentimes needed someone else to help him.
What would that someone?
No, Gail, he picked her up and put her in the truck. There was no contact, and I've been paying really good attention to this case. There is no evidence of contact. That's what's so eerie about the video footage that was captured the day before he did this, when he was talking to the little girls and asking them where their parents were. He probably, drove up, saw Athena playing, say, "Hey, I've got a package. Do you know where your mommy is?" And she probably said, "Oh, my mommy's way over there." And he probably just picked her up and took her. That's my speculation, though, so take it with a grain of salt, but that seems to be what he did.
Do to help calm him down?
Well, sometimes it's about not talking and just providing a safe place to be until he was in the right frame of mind to talk about the circumstances, and maybe then help him frame what a better choice might have been.
Were you ever one of the people that helped calm him down?
I feel like on at least one or two occasions, yes.
Now, Marie, you talked a little bit about disciplinary records and said that you felt that he had at least one incident. In looking at the records, can you tell whether or not, or how many incidences there were of fighting or mutual combat?
Looks like there are two on this record. A lot of the others are really more about, like code of conduct, which might be dress code or something like that, and not necessarily a physical altercation. I think there's only two.
Let's see, I believe he's 27 now. Now, special education in Texas doesn't end until 21. So, but it sounds like he only got the kind of requisite 4 years. There are people and special programs here in Indiana, I don't know about Texas, where lower functioning students can go to a high school of sorts or a life skills course with the Department of Education until they're 21 here. So I don't know what it would have been like in Texas, but it doesn't seem like, again, he was affected profoundly enough to qualify for that sort of extra attention.
Fighting or mutual combat on here.
Well, let's talk about the fighting and the mutual combat. Can you tell from the records what happened during those altercations?
No.
Can you tell who started it?
No.
What kind of policy did the school district have at that time regarding any sort of physical contact like that?
Zero tolerance.
So if two people got in a fight and one person was defending himself, would they still be tagged with fighting or mutual combat?
Yes.
And from these records,
I don't care to adjudicate. Again, the fact that these defense attorneys take what their client says as gospel, 99%, I bet Tanner probably started it, but told her that he was the victim. Again, bullying is so not an excuse. It's not a Band-Aid that's going to cover this wound, defense attorney. Nice try.
can you tell whether or not Tanner was acting in self-defense in those cases?
No, ma'am.
Can you tell if he was acting in defense of a third person in those cases?
No, ma'am.
Just if there's any sort of contact, that's what it's labeled as?
Yes.
And it doesn't matter who starts it?
No.
You mentioned the code of conduct violations. Let's talk about that for a moment. You had mentioned that Tanner had several code of conduct violations on his record. For what can a student get a code of conduct violation?
Well, it could be dress code. At that time, it could have been that they came to school and needed to shave and refused to shave, and then we had to, make them shave. I can't remember if he was under our ID policy or not, but it could have simply been that he didn't have his ID on if that was required.
So when we're talking about code of conduct violations, we're not talking about any sort of violence, are we?
Typically not. No, that's going to be more of the fighting and mutual combat.
In looking back on Tanner and the time that you spent with him, do you have any memory of him ever being a serious disciplinary problem?
No, ma'am.
Did you also have the opportunity to watch him as he interacted with his peers?
Yes, even in contact mastery or the learning lab, yes, they interacted.
Dark Lotus, the shaving thing, I'm unaware of. Being a girl, that was not one of the things that they got onto us for dress code. Ours were our shorts being fingertip length and not having spaghetti straps. So I can honestly admit I am fully unaware of any shaving requirements at my high school. Now, this was back in 2006, I believe. No, this was, I don't know if they had I don't believe any of our schools around here have a shaving rule because swear to goodness, my daughter's high school looks like a pack of 12-year-olds and then an Al Borland convention between the 80s mustaches, the Tom Selleck's, and then the full Al Borland beards. Honestly, I don't know who's going to school, who's teaching, and who's a student.
And so how often would you get the chance to watch him with his peers?
On any average week, probably once or twice a day.
Based upon your observations of these interactions, what do they look like?
Typical interactions, like you would think with any other student. They just had conversations and, laughed and cut up. I.e. the reason why I said sometimes they had to be redirected.
Was he accepted, or could you tell if he was accepted by the people in that group?
Did y'all object as a speculation as with other people?
I'll let her answer.
And again, based upon your observations, was Tanner accepted by those peers, or did he seem to be rejected and ostracized?
Most of the time, I think he was accepted. I think there were probably some instances where he was rejected.
Now, based upon your observations of Tanner in the content mastery class versus your observations of him outside of the class, in which group did he appear to be more comfortable?
Are you asking me if I feel like he was more comfortable with peers that were also under special education, or with
That's
all
where I was
peers?
headed.
Okay. He probably was more comfortable with those that were under the special ed umbrella, but he also had friends that were not.
Now, did you ever see any instances where Tanner had, difficulty fitting in, or he was teased, or, I hate to use the word bullied, but, kind of mistreated by other students?
Well, I think there were probably times in the hallways in the mall area.
No one cares. No one cares. Please tell someone the defense. Like, let it go. No one cares. Was he bullied? Did they make fun of him? I'm sorry, ma'am. I went to school where we still in gym played a game lovingly known as smear the Q word, okay? So I don't know what you gauge as bullying, because we used to have that as a legitimate game in my school. So we don't do that anymore. We call it dodgeball.
The way Azle High School set up, maybe in the cafeteria where he wasn't always treated as he should. And a lot of times we would not intervene unless it escalated to a point that we felt like we needed to, because they have to learn how to manage those relationships.
You talked about Tanner being in the content mastery, and you talked about having him for 4 years. Did Tanner ultimately graduate from high school?
Yes.
Based upon your observation,
Dark Lotus, I've caught myself. I've also caught myself saying Indian style instead of crisscross applesauce. Also, let's be real. Dodgeball games are like Hunger Game light.
and your interventions with him, could you tell whether graduating from high school was an easy task for Tanner?
I don't think it was an easy task, no.
Why do you say that?
Well, because an average kid struggles, but I think a student under the special ed umbrella struggles more, because it's hard for us to level the playing field and make sure that they have the accommodations that they need to be successful.
When a student graduates from high school and they've been in these classes such as having an inclusion specialist, or having special education programs, or being able to get a content mastery, is that the sort of thing that follows them when they graduate?
No, ma'am. A lot of people don't know this, but special education ends when a student graduates, and they're expected to acclimate and fit in and, just move along through society without accommodations that they've had for in his case, more than 4 years.
So looking back at everything, was Tanner...
She was the head of the special education, or now whatever name they call it, of the school district when Tanner was there. I do believe that she was maybe more hands-on when Tanner was there, so she does have impressions of him. But I don't care. Also, it's not society's job, and I do think that society could do better, but let's be real. His parents screwed up, and because they decided that they were going to have a child and fuck on off, we got left with the pieces of this child who is broken. Now, were their childhoods broken too? Yeah, so look, I don't know, chicken or egg, but Tanner, at the end of the day, chose to do what he did. So can we stop? Can we give society a break?
more able to complete his tasks when in a structured environment?
Absolutely.
Was he more able to be redirected while in a structured environment?
Absolutely.
Or was he able to overcome the emotional disturbance label that he was given?
I think so, for the most part.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about, Marie, is you had said that you thought Tanner was a good kid. Why did you think he was a good kid?
He was always pleasant.
He hadn't killed anyone before. Swear, I hate these questions. You all, It's later in the day. My F's are gone. It is what it is. Brace yourself.
To interact with. Not all the students that came to Content Mastery were. Some of them were pretty much forced to come maybe by the teacher, but he always came willingly and typically, like I said, would accept redirection and complete the tasks that he was sent there for.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Marie, it sounds like to me, and by the way, my name is James Stanton. I'm the district attorney for Wise County.
Nice to meet you.
I saw you sit back. I didn't have a chance to introduce myself to you. So good to have you here today. I'm going to go over a couple of things with you. It sounds like at Azle ISD that there were a lot of programs out there for all the students.
Yes, sir.
To help them with certain subjects. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And we talked a lot about the content mastery, but it sounds like to me there was a bunch of kids, whether they were in special education or not, there was a lot of kids that were in content mastery.
I would reiterate that is true. They could come, but the majority of the students that came were 504 or special ed students.
Right. That had trouble with a certain subject or needed a little extra help.
Yes, sir.
So in addition to what they were getting with their programs in the school, whether it's a 504 or special ed, they had you and people like you that were helping them additionally.
Yes.
With these types of classes.
Mhm.
Okay. And so in this particular case, did you work in the high school the whole time, or were you in different places?
During his time, I was only at the high school.
Only at the high school. Okay. And now I'm listening to your answers here. Do you feel like you have a pretty specific memory of the defendant, Mr. Horner, in this case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because it's been a couple of years.
Been a few.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I think you referred to him as, it sounds like when he was attending your classes and things, he was able to listen and learn like the rest of the kids. Is that right?
For the most part, yes, sir.
I think we talked a little bit about him being redirected, but I'm going to guess he probably wasn't the only kid in there that needed redirection.
No.
Okay. And that was, it seems like to me from what you're saying is that probably most of the kids in there may have needed a little redirection.
Yes, sir.
Or maybe a little assistance with their focus.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you're talking about that and he's in there, you don't have any specific instances of him having any inability to interact with the other kids in that group setting, do you?
Well, I was actually thinking about that this morning and even last night. I recall at least one incident where not just myself, but one of the paraprofessionals in the room, and oftentimes, I mean, it didn't matter who the kid was. We would say, "Hey, look at me. Is that the right choice? Is that what you should be doing?" And like I said, my colleague had to do it as well. But usually he would calm down and take the redirection and move on.
All right. Now, you talked about him in the group setting, and it seemed like you had a pretty specific memory of him interacting with his peers, mostly accepted by his peers, and even I think you said he had friends in that group. Is that right?
Yes.
Kind of like any other kid.
Yes, sir.
Now, I won't get into this too much. We talked about incidences of fighting or conduct and the whole zero tolerance. This is going to ask you about defending people and other things, but what it also doesn't say is whether or not somebody actually did start it and was assaulting someone else.
Yes. Yeah. The record is very vague.
Right. So, and it sounds like to me, you had quite a bit of interaction over a 4-year period with Mr. Horner. Is that right?
Yes.
And we talked about graduating high school. You said that some kids struggle with high school regardless. Not everybody's going to be at the top of the class.
No.
But based on your memory and your records, Mr. Horner graduated normally with the rest of his class.
Yes, sir.
Now, at some point, you'll agree with me that your training and your help for the particular student is going to go away because they're 19, 20, 22, 23 years old, right?
Well, special education technically in the state of Texas ends when a student turns 21.
Okay, thank you. But regardless, people are going to grow up, right? And at some point, they're responsible for their own actions, right?
Yes.
The school can't just be responsible for them when they're 30.
No.
Now, Trying to make sure I cover all this here. And I didn't use your name. I referred to you as ma'am. Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine.
Okay. I'm a little old school, so. In any of these instances that you're talking about here that specifically deal with the defendant, whether it's redirection or helping them make the right decision and things like that, you talked about several of those you remember. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you said with all of those, you were able, even through high school, to get him redirected and get him back on task, so on and so forth. Is that
Yes,
right? Okay. You didn't note any instances in there where you were unable to do that?
No, but if, again, I'm going to go back to the code of his disciplinary record. There must have been at least 2 incidences where redirection didn't work because, he has a violation of fighting in mutual combat.
That's what it's wrong.
Redirect.
Just briefly, Your Honor. Mary, with regards to the disciplinary record, have you had the opportunity to look at the disciplinary records of students in Azle ISD throughout your career?
I can't say throughout my career, but in the role that I had after I left the high school, I saw many. And so yes, ma'am.
And how did Tanner's compare to those?
Well, his was pretty short in comparison to some that I've seen.
Mr. Mo is into opals and opals, but I did send him the story I did a couple weeks ago about a man proposing with 100 pounds of sapphire gravel. Sapphire is a tricky word. I hate that word. I can't spell it. I love sapphires. Can't spell it. But definitely think I could sell him on getting the 100 pounds of sapphire gravel and then looking for a bunch of jewels. See? Smart.
The state asked you about graduating
Yes.
with all of the other kids. While Tanner was in high school, did he have accommodations?
Yes.
And were those, tell the jury whether you feel he would have been successful in graduating without those accommodations.
No, ma'am. I don't think he would have been successful without them.
So the only reason he graduated was because of the interventions of you and your team?
Well, and his own tenacity, yes.
Tell me about his tenacity.
He worked hard.
I don't care if he used tough actin to nactin. Move on. The fact that we're talking about his tenacity with what he did, again, does anyone care?
To achieve.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
We could all use a moment. And vodka.
Nothing further. Thank you, Mayor, or Marie.
Mr. Stegman?
Nothing further wrong.
May this witness be excused?
No objections.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, leave those with me. Okay. Who do you have next?
Gary Beaton.
Is the witness, where's the witness?
He's in the back. There we go.
I got it. Okay, there's a rule of evidence.
All right, this is going to be a pastor, I'm guessing, of his grandparents. Now, he was in the youth program for a little bit. And if you ask me tomorrow why I have a bunch of sticks that I'm going to be breaking all day, it will be because of his testimony. Yes, apparently Tanner had a giant meltdown over a stick. So I'm going to break all the sticks.
Evidence in effect that says you cannot be in court unless you're testifying. Once you have testified, don't discuss your testimony with anyone else except the lawyers, okay?
Yes, all right, Mr. Gold.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Steve Goble, one of Tanner's attorneys. I don't know if we met. But I need to make clear, we're just going to call you Gary for today.
Yes.
Is that right? And were you subpoenaed to be here?
Yes.
And that was by us.
Yes.
How do you know Tanner Warner?
Now, Matlin, I will say that I kind of had the same thought, but this pastor makes a really good point. Um, in Cross, because I'll tell you, I had about the same thing, like, miss me with this noise, and the pastor made a really good point that, he said, "I'm called to do things I don't wanna do," because he did go, because of his relationship with the grandparents to see Tanner in the jail, and he's like, "Look, I'm a pastor. I'm called where I'm called. I don't wanna go where I'm called sometimes." Well, I believe he's Tanner's former pastor, so I put former as Tanner goes, but I guess he is a current pastor. I think he is still currently a pastor, so I will take that off because it's a little, but the former was more that Tanner had moved away from the church, obviously. Um, oh, for the love of Cheetos. I got a new keyboard, so it's wireless, so I don't have to have the old, reliable wiry things. But I did not connect those, yet because, yeah, I'm not trying new stuff right before a stream.
He was part of our church a number of years ago.
And what's your role at the church?
I'm the lead pastor.
Do you remember about how old he was when he started attending?
I don't recall exactly what age it was, no.
Okay. What were your impressions of Tanner while he was attending the church?
He was like any other kid. I'd see him walking up and down the halls. He was part of I think he started kind of in our youth ministry from the beginning. I think junior high, maybe somewhere around there, I'm not sure. So, he was a kid like everyone else. We were aware that, he had a form of autism a little bit. And so there were moments we dealt with that. But as far as being loved by our church family and our people, he was.
And so I assume he wasn't, or you tell me, was he disruptive or anything? Is that what you're saying?
No, he wasn't disruptive. There would be times where something would happen that was out of the ordinary for him, and he would get upset, but he wouldn't take it out on others. He took it out on himself. He would hit himself, just, that was kind of what he did.
Now, as the pastor, were you able to have one-on-one conversations with him?
Yeah. Anytime you see a kid, especially as he got into high school, that is kind of becomes a loner, as a pastor, even as a man, you want to try to help someone like that. So we would have conversations and try to speak into his life, help give some guidance and direction, find out where he was at. Yeah.
And did he participate at church?
Yes.
Did you have programs that he could be involved in?
As Satan? As a demonstration like demon? Okay.
And what would they be?
So at the time, in our youth ministry, we had what was called, it's fine arts. It's a big form of competition for teenagers of all ages from all over the United States. And we had a stomp team that, has drums and then different kinds of equipment. And so we had won state and won nationals, and Tanner,
Like drumline competitions for church? Interesting.
he was kind of a loner, trying to find his place, being a little awkward at times. I don't think he knew where to fit in. But when he got
Debbie, I believe they are required to testify if they're subpoenaed, and the next witness, the defendant's ex-girlfriend, makes it very clear that she was subpoenaed by the defense.
on that team, because they had to try out for that team, it wasn't just, you didn't just get on it. He made it.
Anima Rumpier, does Texas always blur all the defense witnesses? I've never seen this before. Every witness having their ID hidden usually is just underage or undercover. I do believe with this being a smaller locality, and this case generates a lot of deep, angry feelings, and the internet is full of morons. So while I know that you guys or anyone who randomly comes into my chat and stays are not the type of people to reach out to the pastor and put any blame on him or any blame on the special education teachers. The internet is full of morons, and I think they're just trying to make sure that they basically, they're abiding by the rules of our laws. They were subpoenaed, they're showing up, and I don't believe any of these people volunteered, for this. So, I think that they are trying to make sure that the taint of Tanner stays with Tanner, and it's the least that, the defense could do, again, using these people as human shields.
And I think that gave him a sense of belonging. And then the uh, the senior students around him were strong Christians and had known him and knew how to work with him. And so, yeah, he became part of that team.
So did that involve music?
Yes, it was music. Yes.
And did Tanner show any inclination towards music?
Yeah, Tanner loved music. Yeah.
Now, was there a point in these competitions where something went wrong and got him a little frazzled?
Yeah, so we won state and we made it to the national competition. These competitions, there's 12 to 15,000 students. Not all of them are competing, but it's a large group ranging from doing vocal solos, I mean, a number of. But for our team, they had practiced and it was time to go in. We went in and I can't remember if he forgot his stick or his stick broke. You broke it, yeah. He broke his stick.
Tanner, no one wants to hear from you, dumbass. I broke it. Okay, so maybe it wasn't a stick, it was actually a drum stick. But still, I do wanna break sticks around him just on purpose. Like, I want everyone in just cells around him to be breaking sticks. So, I guess he was a drum player, so he broke a drumstick. I was assuming they'd just given him a stick. I wasn't totally paying attention, to be very honest, when I was in Walmart. So, this makes more sense than just a stick, because I was like, honestly, if they told me that he had a branch of some sort and he got pissed off about it, I would not be shocked.
So the routine had started and you got these judges sitting in front of you. It's pretty intimidating, but they prepared and his stick broke. And when it did, it put him into a panic. I think a lot of it due to his autism a little bit, but also just letting the team down. But the senior ones around him, I think, threw him a stick, and then one of them used their hands, so they made it through the routine. But for some reason, that really impacted Tanner. And as soon as it was over, he ran out of the room, and you could tell he was upset and angry, but he wasn't violent toward anybody. He was just really upset with himself. Yeah.
But that's something that could have happened to anyone, right?
Yeah. When you're in high pressure competition like that and you've won nationals before, yeah, the pressure can get to anybody. But
Now, well, I mean, in terms of like the stick breaking on stage.
yeah, stick, yeah, has no control.
Could we Carmen Sandiego to a fucking point? And look, Pastor, I'm glad that you're reaching out to the youth and taking them to stomp programs and all that jazz. And I'd be totally willing to listen, because it sounds like a place that I would go as a people watcher. I don't know that I'd participate, and more like a Jane Goodall thing, if I'm honest, where I just want to people watch. That being said, this is the most pointless, boring, stupid testimony. I believe he would be called a priest. I don't know that, at least when I was practicing Catholic, we didn't have pastors. I'm guessing he's some form of Baptist, but I could be very, very wrong.
Right. And he didn't see it that way.
No. For him, it was, since it was not in the normal routine for him, he didn't know how to deal with that.
Now, you talked about this team was kind of competitive. You had to try out to get on.
Yes.
Did it require a lot of practice?
Yes, sir. Lots of practice.
So they were there about how often during the week? Yeah.
It depended on how intense the competition was, and then on the group. But that particular year, we had some very strong drummers and musicians. So I would imagine they practiced 2 to 3 times a week.
Anima Rumpure, thank you for reminding me of Ren and Stimpy at this moment. And now I need to go do log.
Probably the average.
And how long have you been at your church?
29 years.
Do you remember who attended church with Tanner?
It was Bill and Jackie Harbison,
Who were they?
his grandparents.
Do you know who was raising Tanner when he was attending your church?
Bill and Jackie, yes.
And what were your impressions of them?
Bill and Jackie were really good people. When they were attending our church, yeah, they were very good people. They were very connected in our church family, loved our church family, and just good, solid people.
Now, just from your knowledge, did you know why they were raising him?
Yes, Tanner's mom was pretty much not present. She was in and out of his life, a lot of drugs. And I think she'd been in prison or jail a few times. So I didn't get to interact with Melissa very much, but it was aware of her history, yes.
But you did meet her at some point?
Yes.
Did she not attend regularly like
No,
Bill and Jackie
no.
and Tanner?
If she was out of jail or would happen to be home, she might come on an Easter or something like that, but there was no regular attendance and no connection at all.
Did Tanner's sibling attend too?
Yes.
And you say remember him?
Yes, vaguely. I didn't know him as well, but yes.
Okay. Was there some point where Bill's kind of attitude for the church changed?
Yes. So Bill was, up to that point, he was a very loving, we would laugh. I mean, he was just a really good guy. The VA changed his medication and he became a different person. Like, it was noticeable. He became angry, agitated when he showed up to church. It just wasn't the same Bill. Tried to have conversations with him. He didn't want to have a conversation. And so he just behaved in a way that wasn't normal. Yeah.
Was there a specific incident that kind of ended that relationship?
Yeah. So we tried to talk to him, but he started bringing a bag to church. You carry a bag. And at some point, you have to figure out what's in the bag. So our board, at that time, our security team was a little bit different. They're a lot more intense now, but they finally had to talk to Bill. And the sack had knives and stuff in it. And to him, I don't know why, he thought it was just normal. So when he was told he couldn't bring those to church anymore, he was already upset, but that kind of set him over the edge.
Did Jackie stop attending when Bill did?
Honestly, not sure if that's storms coming through or not. It is starting to get dark out. We will keep going though, unless we actually get rumbly storm warnings.
Yeah.
Well, let me put it another way. Did you have some interaction with Jackie after Bill quit coming?
Yeah, Jackie would reach out right after that, and she understood something was wrong with Bill, but I don't remember how long she attended afterwards. But we'd have conversations trying to just help her deal with Bill as well as Tanner and his brother.
Now, you said we've been talking about kind of junior high and high school for Tanner.
Yes.
When did you last have contact with Tanner?
My last contact was after the incident that we're dealing with now. But when he got into high school,
Yeah.
And he was able to drive on his own, he didn't come all the time. He kind of had his own life and was developing that, but he would still come off and on. I think after graduation or right before graduation, we present a Bible to every senior, and he was there the day we presented his Bible, and that was a big moment. So I think as a pastor, that was probably my last encounters with him that I can remember. Yeah.
And then you said you had an encounter with him after the incident.
Yes, sir.
Did he initiate that, or you, or how did that happen?
I believe he initiated it. So I received a call that he wanted to visit with me. And so, you know, as a pastor, we don't always get to do the easy things. We do what we're called to do. So I met with him and just wanted to make sure he was okay and wanted to make sure he understood, you know, really what had happened. Because with his autism, and I don't know what range of spectrum he was, but connecting things together was sometimes you had to really help him connect that. So I just felt like, all right, number one, I need to go pray with him. And then two, I want to make sure he understands fully what went on. So we went and we had a good conversation, I felt, and talked about the reality that, you know, as far as his physical life, it was never going to be the same. And so the only way that he was going to get through that is if his spiritual life, if he, you know, really turned his life over to God, he was going to need God's strength to get through all that he was going to face. But his life was never going to be the same physically, but spiritually, I wanted to make sure that you know, his heart, his soul was taken care of.
And you said you did have a chance to pray with him?
Yes, so I talked to him. We prayed the sinner's prayer together. And then I believe he requested a specific Bible. I can't recall if
The color it yourself Crayola Bible, the one with just one commandment, that thou shalt not kill. I mean, for the and look, I get it, but doggone it, I hate the defense.
if that Bible was actually delivered. I don't remember. I want to say we did, but I can't remember.
I understand, and that's been a little bit of time.
That's
right
been
after
long.
he went in.
Yeah.
General Hathaway.
Sir, I want to talk to you just a little bit about a couple of things. You testified initially that Mr. Horner was able to participate in this youth group.
Yes.
Right.
And this, yeah.
And he was able to go to practice several times a week
Yes.
and able to work within that group to perform for a common goal.
Yes.
And in fact, did well enough that they were able to place and do well on a big stage.
Yes, sir.
And he was, and how long does it take to do that? Is that a couple of year process that you have to get kind of together and practice? You have to work with all these people?
Well, each year there's a competition. Every 2 years, it's national. It's national every year, but every 2 years it's really big because it's a convention where all the pastors from the United States as well as youth groups from all over the country meet.
Right.
But so each year the team would be different according to who graduated, who would come in. I don't remember how many years Tanner was on the team, but yeah, within that structure, he was able to function within that team framework.
Right. Be able to come to practice and
Yes.
work with other people,
Yes.
take criticism on whether or not he's doing correct or not.
Yes.
And he was able to do that throughout the time that you remember.
Yes. If there would have been an incident that
I very much like how the state is completely just destroying the fact that the defense is trying to show that Tanner was completely dysfunctional. No, he was able to be redirected. Again, where he is classified, unless, you might just see it as socially awkward. You might not pathologize it as actually being on the spectrum. A lot of people who are in the very high functioning, area of autism do a lot of masking and are usually high functioning enough to kind of learn how to mask and, find different coping mechanisms for interacting. Oh, defense, you're wasting our lives.
we felt would have been unsafe for, then Tanner would have never been allowed to go. Yes.
Right. And you didn't feel like that.
No.
And It sounds like that you guys at the church were ready, able, and willing to provide Tanner and his family with whatever support they needed.
We did our best, yes, to help Bill and Jackie.
Right.
And
They're raising their grandkid, right?
yes,
And I'm going to speculate here a little bit, but that's probably not the only grandkid you've seen in the lately raised by grandparents.
it happens quite often, unfortunately.
It's unfortunate, but you're telling us today that he did have that support network with his grandparents.
Yes, Bill and Jackie, yes.
And he also had it at his church family as well.
Yes.
Now, you talked a little bit about the last time that that you saw the defendant, Tanner, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember what day that was?
No, sir, I don't remember the day.
And you said that you talked to him, and I think that you said you wanted to understand what had happened.
No, I wanted to make sure he understood the severity of what happened.
Well, let me just ask you, in that conversation, what did he tell you happened in this case?
Sir, I can't remember. I honestly don't remember.
You don't remember him telling you what he did to Athena Strand?
No, sir.
Did you ask him?
I don't believe I specifically asked that, no. I knew what happened. And so I just want to make sure he understood what happened.
Let me ask you this. You said you knew what happened.
Yes.
What did you know what happened?
All I knew at that time was what had been out, and that is he was driving for, I think, FedEx and had hit Athena, panicked, and did what he did. That's all I knew.
And that's what you discussed with him, about what you knew had happened.
Yeah, I don't know if we got into specifics. I really don't. I just wanted him to understand the severity. Like, look, Tanner, this is real, and this is not going away. And I wanted him to understand that.
I think the pastor's trying to keep confidences, but I doubt that Tanner told the truth. So I don't know why he would be protecting unless he feels very guided to have pastor congregation privilege, which I don't think is a legal thing, but more a maybe spiritual leader thing. I look, I'm only a fake cult leader, so I don't know.
You know now that that's not what happened?
Yes, sir.
You know now that it's something dramatically different than that.
Yes, I haven't watched the case.
When you talked to him initially, the last time you talked to him, you knew that initial version, and
Yes.
that's what you were going in on him to talk about.
Yes.
But he didn't tell you the truth about what happened.
No, sir, I don't think we actually discussed the specifics. Again, my goal was simply I wanted to look in his eyes and, are you aware of the severity? Do you fully grasp what you did? But we didn't talk about the specifics, as I recall.
Based on his version of it.
And that makes very much sense to me. This man, and I think all of us are trying to find the why. And I've kind of gotten past that evil doesn't need a why. It doesn't need a reason. You can't sometimes pathologize evil. You can't, categorize it and, figure out the chemical disturbances in the brain. Sometimes people just choose evil. And at least to our ability right now, we can't pathologize it, we can't predict it, and we know maybe factors that contribute, but I'm guessing in that moment, he was hoping that this was, mental health. This was exactly what Tanner had said, a horrible, horrible panic reaction, and then to find out what it really was and to be called by the defense, he's being much more. He could have thrown Tanner under the effing bus, and he is not. I would've, but this is probably why I'm not a pastor.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
He knew what he did.
Yes.
And now you know that version's not true.
Yes, sir.
So he lied to you.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm redirect.
Now, at that time, you knew that Tanner had caused his murder,
Yes,
so your conversation was based on that premise.
yes.
And you're saying you did or did not discuss detail?
I don't believe we discussed details. My goal was just, Tanner, do you
Okay, defense. I'm sorry, but there is a big difference between, again, what Tanner said he did at the start and then what he actually did. And yes, at the end of the day, this little girl in either scenario is no longer here. But don't make it in apples and oranges. Don't, well, he did admit to red brum. And
understand the severity? Do you get what happened and that this is going to be life-changing and you can't undo that? And so I believe that was our conversation.
I'm
And that stemmed
unfiltered.
from the notion that that's a horrible
Yes.
sin, crime,
Yes.
murder.
Yeah, he was aware. I knew. So again, I don't think the specifics was the goal. It was just making him just aware that this was going to be life-altering and it wasn't consequences. They're not going away.
And you still counsel him,
Yes.
and you still prayed with him,
Yes.
and you still help him get the Bible.
Yes.
passed.
Yes.
That's what, sir.
Mr. State,
No further on.
may this witness be finally excused?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Let me stretch my legs, okay? See you about 10:30.
I love this judge. This judge is like, oh my God, I cannot deal with this for one more second. Please deliver me from stupidity. Now, this next witness is interesting because I was trying to place who it was. At first, I thought maybe it was Cassie, his former fiance, but I believe this would have been one of his consensual girlfriends from high school. Okay. And this is kind of where I got home. So after this, I have no idea where we're going. Now, I believe from where I stopped, she was speaking kindly of Tanner. So it shows that he can have a functional-ish relationship. Well, I mean, there are other females of a young age he decided to take to his shed that I don't know he would label girlfriend. Now,
Morning, how are you doing?
the audio does start out with a lot of background noise, but they quickly fix that in like the first 30 seconds.
I'm doing as okay as I can be.
Would you please go ahead and introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Rita, and I'm here as a character witness. I'm subpoenaed to be here.
You said you were subpoenaed to be here?
Mhm.
Were you subpoenaed by the defense?
Notice how she was very clear that she was subpoenaed to be here. Now, this young woman is going to be crocheting while she testifies. Sorry, guys. It's this too high. But she's been diagnosed with narcolepsy, so she goes on to talk about that. But the defense does make it clear, although never mind. Just thought that was interesting.
Yes.
Now, Reba, I see that you have some crocheting in your lab. Tell me about that.
I'm narcoleptic and I tend to fall asleep at random times. And the crocheting, I don't even have to look at it, helps keep me awake so I don't fall asleep randomly. I know it's a bit awkward, but I'm not medicated and it works.
How long has this been an issue?
I've always randomly fallen asleep in class since I think my earliest memories of it was probably 8 or 9 years old.
Reba, you had said that you were here to be a character witness for Tanner Horner. And how do you know Tanner?
We were best friends when we were in 5th grade and dated briefly in high school. And again, briefly when we got older.
You said that you
Ma'am, why? You know how to crochet. I mean, you're a catch. Why? Not once, but twice.
met him in school. What grade were you in when you first met him?
5th grade.
Did y'all
What grade was Tanner in? Junior high, middle school? Was he a senior? I mean, at this point, we do need to ask these questions.
hang out a lot?
On the playground, yeah.
How often would you hang out?
Almost daily. Playing games like kickball or, pretend or something like that.
Did y'all do anything else together? What other types of games did you play?
Like back then, Harry Potter was really big. We would sometimes pretend to play something in Harry Potter, and I would be one of the bad guys or something like that.
What was Tanner like at that age?
He was energetic, talkative. It was always fun to be around.
Now, Reba, did you and Tanner ever attend church together?
Yes.
What grade were you in when y'all began attending church together?
10th grade.
How often would y'all attend church?
At least once a week, but sometimes twice a week.
Did you and Tanner enjoy going to church?
Yes, I enjoyed spending time with him and his family. He would often, during the services in the chapel where they would have the sermons, would have to wake me up because I would fall asleep.
So it wasn't just you and Tanner that attended, you attended with his family as well?
Mhm.
When you say you attended with his family, who are you referring to?
His grandmother, his grandfather, and his little brother.
You said that you had originally met Tanner when y'all were in the 5th grade. Did you stay friends with him throughout high school?
Yes.
Did y'all attend high school together?
Ma'am, you do not have to put that on your LinkedIn. In fact, you can Regina George the hell out of him. He doesn't go here. I don't know you. I mean, I'm just saying, ma'am, you do not have to claim him.
Yes.
Well, what was Tanner like in high school?
About the same. I mean, he was insecure about being in choir because his voice was changing.
Were there any other things that he was insecure about?
That one was the main one. He wanted to focus more on playing instruments and things like that. Try to have a music career when he grew up.
When y'all were in high school, were you still hanging out together the same amount of time that you did when you were in elementary school?
A little bit more. We had more freedom to be like going out to the mall and things like that.
And what kinds of things would y'all do in addition to going to the mall?
Sometimes we went out to eat with his grandparents, and it was really mainly going out to eat or at the mall or hanging out at his house.
Well, you said that you and Tanner had briefly dated while you were in high school.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Again, ma'am, you did not have to admit that. Look, I'd have pled the 5th. Ma'am, you can do that. I mean, I'm not sure legally, but look, I'm pretty sure we'll allow it. You can not claim this man. Like, ma'am, you don't have to.
He was always really sweet, real gentlemanly. Again, this was a long time ago, but I enjoyed spending time with him back then.
Well, how'd y'all make that jump from childhood friends to high school dating?
He admitted to me that he had a crush on me, and I'm like, why hadn't you asked me out? Because I'm the type that, the other person needs to make the first move. I don't really catch the hint.
Well, what was he like as a boyfriend?
He was sweet and endearing.
This is so gross. I don't want to hear what he was like as a boyfriend. I don't care. Not only do I not care, it makes me physically want to gag because I have. Oh, okay. Can we talk about who do I need to talk to about the fact that my imagination, without my consent, decides to create things that I didn't tell it to? Because really, of all the things my brain does, making up these mental images that I do not consent to, I don't want to hear about him being a loving boyfriend. That just means he was capable of not acting and behaving like a monster, and he chose to. And this poor woman is now again associated with this man through no fault of her own other than the defense using her as a human shield.
Back then, um, he was very supportive and seemed real protective back then of me when things were bad.
When things were bad? Were things often bad for you?
On occasion, yes, I had issues at home sometimes, and the kids at school liked to tease and make fun of me behind my back. And whenever he was around, it didn't seem to happen as much.
As a boyfriend, did Tanner treat you well?
Yes.
Was he ever physically violent to you?
No.
Ever raise his voice to you?
No.
Did he ever pressure you into doing something that you didn't want to do?
No.
Oh, why did you two break up?
I pulled a really dumb move on my part and wanted to date somebody else instead. And so I broke up with Tanner to date another person.
Holy shit, ma'am. Tanner's not the one that got away. Did she? We're gonna go back. Does she sound wistful about the fact, like a little bit sad that she broke up with Tanner? Ma'am, you are not in Sweden. I don't think she's blaming herself. I think she has actual fond remembrances of him and would have rather stayed in a relationship with him, is kind of what I got from the tone in her voice. We're gonna go back and because I'm not good at tonal qualities sometime.
Oh, why did you two break up?
I pulled a really dumb move on my part and wanted to date somebody else instead. And so I broke.
I mean, doesn't that sound like she kind of wanted to go back to? No, is Stockholm? Oh, well, I'm sorry, but you guys had the syndrome. I mean, we should have called it Hoosier syndrome because, I mean, people move here like me and then never leave. But I wasn't in charge of naming things. I mean, I'd have called it your mind lies to you.
Broke up with Tanner to date another person.
How do you take that?
Not too well.
Why do you say that?
He was upset, and he had every right to be upset. He, chased me and the other guy on after school across the street.
Well, did you think that he might hurt you? I mean, hurt himself because of the breakup?
No, I didn't think about that. I mean, I was more afraid of the emotions rather than the actions.
With the after the breakup, did you still see Tanner?
After the breakup, he did come to my house one time to ask, for clarification of what was going on, and he walked
Or a phone. A phone works.
about 20 miles to my house, and I was more concerned about safety than the fact that he showed up.
When you say safety, whose safety?
His safety, because that was walking from.
That's because in past generations you would have probably been eaten by a predator, because apparently you have no survival skills whatsoever. Self-preservation. Holy crap. He walked 20 miles to see me after I broke up with him, and I thought that was romantical. No, that is stalker behavior. That is creepy. That is beyond obsessive. When a telephone exists?
Lake Worth all the way to Lahana, which is between Azle and Springtown.
Oh, what kind of road is that?
199, and it's pretty busy.
So when you say that you were afraid for his safety, was it just his safety while walking?
His safety while walking.
Well, after the breakup, did he seem to be depressed?
A little, but after a while, we were still able to maintain some sort of friendship.
And you said that he walked almost 20 miles to your house?
Yes.
Wanted some clarity
Yes.
about the breakup?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this gesture?
At the moment, I was just shocked that he walked that far, and I was more afraid of him getting hit by a car. So I didn't really think too much of it other than, are you okay?
But you weren't worried that he was coming out there to harm you or anything, were you?
Mm-mm.
At some point, did you marry?
Yes, I did get married to another man.
After you,
Okay, again, why does this woman sound like she wanted to be married to Tanner? I look, y'all, I'm not the best at like social cues, but am I reading this wrong? Because it sounds like I cheated on Tanner. Ma'am, you are aware that he unalived a child. Like, y'all, women, do better.
um, married, did you maintain contact with Tanner?
Off and on, yes.
Are you and your husband still married?
By technicality, yes.
Have y'all separated?
Nothing parties like a rental. I've always said first marriages are starter marriages in my family. Uh, oh my God. Samantha, we are going to see her on Love After Lockup. You know we are. We only, I know, but doggone it. You know, I guess because I'm such a deeply curious and you know, just very, very curious and kind of inquisitive person. I don't know that I could ever be in a situation where I'm just lack the curiosity, but maybe she does. Maybe she just didn't have any curiosity about what he really did.
A long time ago.
About how long ago?
When he first wanted to separate, let's see, that would be about 15 years when he first wanted to separate. And the full separation was about 13 years ago.
After you and your husband separated, did you get back into contact with Tanner?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Well, we were already talking back and forth for a while, like I said, throughout the relationship that I had with my husband.
You cheated on your husband, a man that married you, with Tanner. Well, I am going to be a skinny bitch this summer because what? I give up. Where is Jerry Springer? Where is Jerry Springer?
He, when things got bad, I would vent to him or, just catch up.
Did you ever pursue him with a romantic interest involved?
Yes.
Was Tanner interested in dating you?
Why? Why? These are dark times. We might be in the end times. Say you gather your loved ones, tell them you love them, hug them, for the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are coming soon. She pursued him? Yes, we're having a moxie break because I need to use the restroom and y'all need help. And she's too old for him anyway, but oh God, what? Why? No. All of the things. All of them all the time.
I take it down. Woo! Yeah. Oh yeah. I take it down minute and a half. Yeah. When the dark gets long and the tea is hot, and the emotions filed are quite a lot. When the state says boom and defense says pass, that's when I call my mini ass so classy and sass. Woo! Oh, Moxie, the emotional support mini donkey, tiny but mighty, a courtroom honky tonky. If the trial goes sideways, she don't panic or balk, just a soft little hee-haw and a judgmental walk. Clip clop, trotting through the mess. Ears perked, high, and unutterable distress. When the facts get wild and the lawyers get snarky, I lean on my emotional support. Yes. afternoon. She hums a brave and slightly off tune. She's pocket-sized but bold of heart, a fluffy illegal work of art. From board down woes to verdict day, she snacks on hay and leads the way. Oh, Moxie, queen of the pasture class, small but ruling the law to grass. When the timeline spirals and takes get funky, there's peace in a steadfast mini donkey. The clip-clop courage, fluffy and spunky. All hail the emotional support as Moxie. Oh!
Look, Walmart has these on clearance. Not that I'm probably supposed to be showing these, but if you decide, like me, that you can't do this sober, what in the name of giblets? This woman is pining for the defendant. Are you? Why? Look, we need to have content warnings. I need to know when I'm going to be dealing with weaponized insanity. Okay. I need to know. Does this woman have an adult? Does this woman have a guardian ad litem? Is she allowed to make like her own choices? Because honest to God, at this point, I'm worried about her judgment. Holy good night, nurse. Let's continue with Tanner's love life. The saga of craziness we did not know we never knew we never wanted to know. I feel like we're being forced fed this information against our will. Anyone else? I don't need to think about this.
The time.
No, he wanted to keep it more friends with benefits type thing.
Oh my God. Tanner, ma'am, first of all, Tanner, friends with benefits. Oh my God. Ew, in that shed, in that pigsty shed. How do you get your smexy on in the shed of trash? Y'all know why?
What do you mean by friends with benefits?
Not exactly dating, but still kind of together.
How did you feel about that? Were you okay with it?
I was okay with it, but I did try to pressure for more than just that.
What, when you say you were pressuring him for more than just that, what kind of relationship did you want?
I wanted exclusively dating because I wanted to be with somebody who I could be safe with, or who I felt that I could be safe with.
Ma'am, again, does this woman have a guardian? She wanted someone to be safe with, and she picked this motherfucker. What? Where? Someone find this woman a guardian.
At some point, did y'all begin a relationship like that?
Yeah, sort of. So I would say we kind of dated again.
Was this Tanner and Reba 2.0, was that different from your high school dating?
Not really. I mean, other than, just being adults.
When you look back on comparing the two relationships as the adult, do you feel that you two were more mature at the time?
When we were adults, yes, we were more mature.
Do you think that y'all had a greater level of emotional intimacy?
Yes.
Now, when I ask about emotional intimacy, what does that mean to you?
God, don't link intimacy and that douchebag together in my head. No, I'm sorry, but we have spent all this time worrying about Tanner's tism. What about my tism? I don't want to have to deal with the fact that my imagination is now conjuring another episode of As the Stomach Turns. Thank you, Grundle Buddies, or Bundies. But honestly, adults, also adults. Well, I'm trying to let it go because we're still on a lunch break. So it looks like we're coming back. So
Being able to confide in one another and not have judgment on what the other person did.
And is this something that Tanner was able to do?
Yes.
How would he show this level of emotional intimacy with you?
We'd sit up late at night and talk, or, go and do things together from time to time.
Now, Revo, in addition to emotional intimacy, was there a new physical intimacy?
Yes.
Why the fuck are we getting into this? Defense, I swear to God. My brain pillow is not in yet. Although this is giving me the excuse to add another costume for emotional damage.
Did he ever pressure you to do anything that you didn't want to do?
Never.
Did he always ask for consent before something happened?
Yes.
Was that important to you?
Yes.
Why was that important to you?
Past abuse.
Well, and then why wasn't it important for him to continue that on with every woman that he interacted with? Because it seems like he has self-control when he needs it, but he can turn it off when he doesn't want to and then blame his autism.
Now, Reba, how long did this new relationship with Tanner last?
See, about 3 months.
Did you enjoy spending time with him during the 3 months?
Yes.
And why did y'all break up the second time?
He was very clear that he wasn't ready to be a dad yet, and that he wanted to focus on his music and that sort of thing.
Ma'am, come to the front of the congregation. No, come right here, right here, right now. I need you to look into my eyeballs as Mama Mo. Did you try, look me in the eyes, did you try to reproduce with this man? Now, look, I don't have a track record of, the best choices, but damn. There are very few times I've been speechless, but honest to God. I regret that I did not, continue his lineage with him.
Which I totally understood. And then my partner that I'm with now wanted kids and wanted a family. So I took the chance with him.
How'd that work out?
We have been together for almost 13 years.
When you were with Tanner before, how many kids did you have?
2.
Now, after y'all broke up the second time, were you able to maintain a friendship with him?
Off and on, yes. It would be sporadic whenever we got into contact. I hadn't really talked to him since 2017.
Do you still have any mementos of your time together with Tanner?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It's a little.
Ma'am, that would have been burnt. Look, I am a firm believer in the cleansing properties of holy fire. You kept shit from this dipshit?
Black cat with a spider web on its belly. The day that we got it, we were in high school and at the mall. I had spent most of my birthday money on a book, and I absolutely had to have this cat, and I was $2 short. So he pitched in the rest of the money, and I got the cat.
Do you still have that cat?
Yes.
So what happened when y'all broke up? Who got custody of the cat?
I did. On occasion, while we were dating, the little stuffed cat would go to his house, but for the most part, I kept the cat.
I'll pass the witness.
Russell Gentleman. Briefly, Your Honor, thank you.
State, I need you. Talk logic to me. Make the bad thoughts go away. Look, I know it's a lot to put on logic, but I need all of it, okay?
Ma'am, my name is James Stanton. I'm the district attorney for Wise and Jack County. I want to just a little bit there. I see you knitting away. Do you knit faster when you're nervous or slower when you're not? Does it change?
The speed changes from time to time. So whether it depends on if I feel the stitches.
Okay. Well, it seems like to me, and I think you've, and you said you've had this problem since you were how old?
About 8 or 9 years old. I randomly fall asleep. I also have a cat.
Storms are moving through. We are getting some big or some things that say that we might be looking at a shortage depending on what's coming or coming soon. So that could have possibly been storms. But we also, is anyone wanting to the things that stick out at me right at this moment with this woman is that she allowed children possibly near Tanner. Again, she had 2 young children. Have we checked and made sure that they're okay with their proximity to Tanner? Now, maybe she was a wonderful mom, and even though they were friends with benefits and she wanted more, she kept her romantic life and her mom life separate. But there's no guarantee she did. Has anyone checked on those children? And I'm not trying to be, judgmental of her beyond what I've already been, but for those children, if anything happened to them, I want them to get the help and, therapy and support they need.
Which means like if I get too excited or if I'm spooked, that I will either go into a seizure-like event, or I jump and I fall, like all my muscles won't move.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna do any of that to you today, okay? I just note that, so you've had that since you were a kid, and now you're a mom, family, everything else. So it seems like you kind of found a way to work around whatever.
Wonderful correlation, State. Oh my gosh. Thank you, State. Again, I have CRPS. Today, walking around Walmart was a feat. Hell, I forgot that I had parked uphill with my cart and I was like, damn it. So I had to stop and then go. I love the state bringing that up. Yes, we might all have the things that we carry around, our neurospiciness to whatever degree, or depression or childhood stuff, but we adapt and we overcome. Maybe we crochet when we talk. Maybe we wear wigs or make up funny words because we can't spell. But we adapt, and we adapt in ways that don't hurt anyone for the most part. They can be self-destructive, but generally, if they're going to be destructive, they're self-destructive and not, you know, others destructive.
Problems you had or you were born with.
Yep.
Now, you did talk a little bit about an instance that you got the new boyfriend, and you said that Mr. Horner had chased you and the boyfriend. I'm trying to make sense of that.
He just chased us, asking us why, and I went across the street to where my mom was to pick me up, and I just left it at that.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a little clarity on that. And it also, the big thing here is you talked a lot about you said you'd had some rough childhood. I'm not going to get into that. You said you've had some past abuse and things of that nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're still a mom, got a family. And let me just ask you, just to be clear here.
I believe she is with someone else. So, as she was telling the story, Tanner did not want to have children. It seemed like she had 2 children from her previous marriage. And then she was talking to, I guess, another person, and she went ahead and got with that other person. I think she said they'd been together 13-ish years.
You're not a felon, are you?
No.
You haven't killed anybody?
No.
No sexual assault on your part?
No.
God bless you, State, and I mean that in the genuine way. Thank you for bringing logic and clarity and no excuses bullshit. Thank you. Woohoo! Love it.
Despite your rough childhood.
Yes.
And the last thing I'm going to ask you is that you said you're here to be a character witness for Mr. Horner. Is that right?
Correct.
Let me just ask you, do you know what happened in this case?
I have heard.
What have you heard?
I have 3 of me. I really legitimately that's different, so I'm gonna be writing some things down, because I actually this is a very different thing to what actually usually happens when StreamYard hiccups. This was losing all of Chrome. So let me write a couple of notes down while I'm thinking about it, just to tell Mr. Mo if I touched anything or not, which I did not. So at least he will know I did not touch anything, but it did something different. I suck out loud at this, but I'm trying to be better because Mr. Mo says it's like a logic tree. No warning. And at 13:55. Okay. Thank you for letting me get that. I just know that he wanted to know if weirder things happened, like and it looks like after lunch we will be getting or a little bit before lunch, we will be getting an autism.
Condition called cataplexy, which means like if I get too excited or if I'm spooked, that I will either go into a seizure-like event or I jump and
I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to do any of that to you. Around whatever problems you had or you were born with.
yep. Yes.
And the last thing I'm going to ask you is that you said you're here to be a character witness for Mr. Horner. Is that right?
Correct.
Let me just ask you, do you know what happened in this case?
I have heard.
What have you heard?
Objection, Your Honor, that's hearsay.
Sustained.
Tell me what you know about this case.
Objection, Your Honor, that's based on hearsay.
Sustained.
Um,
Hang on, you have to answer.
So as part of this case, have you talked to the defendant at all as part of this case?
No.
So are you aware that the original story that he told in this case was that he ran into Athena Strand?
Objection, Your Honor, still hearsay.
Sustained.
Come on, attorney, you can do it.
That's what it is. Redirect.
Yes, and Reba, I'm sorry, I was looking at my notes and I realized I left a section out. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about Tanner's home life. Did you ever go to Tanner's house?
yes.
Who did he live with?
His grandmother and his grandfather.
Was his father around at the time?
No.
And what about his mom?
Very sporadic. I think I've only, met her once and he would hardly talk about her back then.
When you met her, what was your impression of his mother?
I did not have a very good impression of her.
Why not?
When I did meet her, we were going to Six Flags together, and I don't think she was in the right frame of mind at the time. And my parents were very strict about having adult supervision, and every time she tried to run off, we would have to go and find her. And it felt almost like babysitting.
What did you mean by not in the right frame of mind?
I don't think she was sober.
And did you ever meet Tanner's grandparents?
Yes.
And what was your impression of his grandmother, Jackie?
Very loving. She did everything she could to help support them and make sure that they had the best that they could give.
And what about his grandfather, Bill?
He reminded me a bit of my dad. My dad's a veteran, and he was quiet and almost stoic at times. So I really didn't talk to him much. He just sat there and was really quiet.
Were you around or let me back up, were you able to see any interactions between Bill and Tanner?
Not really. I mean, there's like maybe one time that I remember when I went over to his house, and it was really early before church. And, that morning, Tanner was really abnormally quiet, and I could feel like his grandfather was a little upset or angry that morning. He didn't say anything. There wasn't any, actual interaction while I was there, but you could just feel the emotions in the room.
Were they good emotions?
No, they didn't feel like they were pleasant emotions.
All right, I'll pass witness.
Mr. Stanton,
No further on.
may this witness be finally excused?
No objections.
Any objection from the statement?
No.
All right, thank you, man.
Just wait for a quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
And then we get into, I believe, the autism expert. I was wondering when we were going to get one, since they've been heavily relying on the vagaries of autism for a while.
Who is it? Okay. Okay. Slack. Here she comes. Come in. Good morning. Yes, ma'am. And that chair is allowed to wear. First and last name for the court reporter spelling.
My first name is Amy, A-M-Y, and my last name is Fritz, F-R-I-T-Z.
Outside the presence of the jury, Ms. Anderson, you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Fritz, hold on one moment.
Now, it seems like we're getting a voir dire or some kind of hearing outside of the presence of the jury for this particular witness.
Mm-hmm.
Can I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I believe she's an expert of some sort.
Dr. Fritz, I'm going to hand you Elizabeth Marcus' attendance exhibit number 76 and 77.
Okay.
Did you recognize these?
Yes, this is my CV or resume, and this is the report I wrote.
Does your defendant's exhibit number 77, does that accurately reflect your education, training, and work experience?
Yes, it does.
And defense exhibit number 76, does that accurately reflect the findings and testing and evaluation that you conducted in this?
It does.
Defense
Doctor, also, if you're going to really platinum with your blonde, then for the love of God, deep condition it, ma'am. You're a doctor. You can afford K18. Please buy some. And have a wonderful, safe time. Matlin? Also, get your new growth done before you go to court.
offers defense exhibit 76 and 77 that have been previously tendered to the state.
At this point, I'll admit them for the record, and then the presence of the jury will admit, or do you want to admit it for all purposes?
We can pre-admit and admit them for all purposes, Judge.
Okay, so
Oh, that full-on face was not what I was expecting. I will show you guys what my brain just came up with, and it's not kind. I will go ahead and tell you it is not kind. Legitimately, this is what I thought, you guys.
I'm looking for the ugly stepsister. Hey, buddy, where could I find him? Who's the guy?
Legitimately, I'm not saying that I'm terrible, but that's exactly like that is a strong jaw. That is an extremely strong jaw. It's not my fault. This is my Tizami superpower. I'm telling you guys. But this is also why I cannot be a lawyer, because I would look up and I'd be like, oh, nope, my face is not going to do it.
76 and 77 are admitted.
I keep looking at her eyebrows and I keep just seeing this, who you calling ugly, and and hearing Larry King.
Dr. Fritz, your CV has been offered evidence, so I'm not going to ask you about your credentials during this. But I did want to ask you, what were you asked to do in this particular case?
Sure. So I was contacted by the defense in order to opine on whether Mr. Horner has autism and the social communication traits that are specifically associated with neurodivergence.
Did you perform any autism tests to diagnose autism?
No. So as a speech language pathologist, it's not within my scope to make that diagnosis of autism in most states. And I can, however, talk about the social communication aspects, which are like half of the diagnostic criteria from the DSM.
Half the diagnostic.
So wait, they got a doctor in speech pathology, but not a psychiatrist or whoever would diagnose this. So she's not even qualified to diagnose. She can opine on the social emotion or the social components of autism that might be expressed, but
Criteria for what?
For autism spectrum disorder.
In your line of work, how common is it for an expert or for a doctor to rely upon the reports and findings and test results from other experts?
I would say somewhat regular, especially somewhat common, especially in the forensic world.
And what about in the clinical world?
I would say in related fields. So for example, some of my clients have comorbid medical conditions or mental health conditions that are important for me to know more about.
When preparing for this case, did you meet with Tanner?
Yes, I evaluated him across 2 days, evaluated him in the jail, and I believe I was there for about 4 hours one day and 3.5 the next.
During this time that you spent with him, did you conduct any testing of your own?
so you spent less than a full working day with him and you can opine on his unique diagnosis, unique triggers, and you give a full comprehensive guide because again, the jury is evaluating whether he can be safe in the gen pop, if you have one sympathetic juror.
Yes, so unfortunately, my field doesn't have a lot of standardized assessments that are appropriate to give to adults over the age of 22. There are profiles that are very helpful, and there are some instruments that we can use to provide age equivalencies or other information that's somewhat standardized. So I did perform both informal and formal assessment, as well as observations, record review, and interviewing with the client himself, as well as his grandmother.
With regards to the testing that you did do, are those the kinds of tests that are generally accepted in your field?
Yes, so the ones that I gave are all very mainstream assessments. So 2 that are standardized for somebody of Tanner's age were the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test as well as the Expressive One-Word Test. Those are both vocabulary assessments. And then I give the clinical assessment of language fundamentals. That is actually, the clinical evaluation of language fundamentals. That's actually
Hold on, you're talking really fast.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Well, don't be nervous because
I gotta slow down for
she
you.
might throw paper clips at you here in a minute.
Oh, no, I don't want to get assaulted here. So let me slow down.
Well, let me ask you this, Dr. Fritz. Are all
Yeah.
the tests that you performed, are they set out in the report that has been admitted into evidence?
They are, yes.
What I'd like you to do now is just kind of give us a little brief summary of your findings based on all of the testing and observations and interviews that you did.
Sure. So I would say in its most broad scale, I diagnosed Mr. Horner with mild to severe receptive expressive language disorder. That's a strange diagnosis because it is so differential to say mild to severe, but Mr. Horner has some pretty splintered language skills. So some aspects are he's much more competent in than he is in others. And then I also diagnosed him with what's called symbolic dysfunction relating to pragmatic communication. That's a fancy way of saying that he's got a profound social communication deficit. And that's secondary to his organic autism spectrum disorder diagnosis.
So let's talk about these diagnoses.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been asked to give an opinion as to how these diagnoses may have impacted Tanner, not just throughout his life, but through the crime itself and up to his present incarceration?
Yes. So I basically, it looked at historic or retrospective information, as well as information.
I'm sorry, JKD Buck. I should have had a Kendall, what is it, a Caitlyn Jenner, like warning. Look, if I ever get rich enough and powerful enough to take over mainstream media and remake it in my own image, which, holy God, awesome. Anywho, I'm just saying that would be awesome. I will make Fox put a Caitlyn Jenner warning up there because it's the voice for me when I'm not paying attention and then the voice comes in. I'm like, oh, what is going on here?
That happened post-crime, and reviewed records, interrogation videos, jail calls, letters he wrote to kind of evaluate the use of language constructs after the crime itself.
Why is this important for the jury to know?
Because of the fact that he has profound social communication deficits, we see evidence of that in his interrogations, in his interactions with loved ones through the jail calls. That would be certainly indicative of somebody who is struggling with social norms and, certainly could be deemed as highly inappropriate. And understanding a little bit more about the nature of his social communication deficits, I think, is really the goal.
Without your
Autism doesn't mean that you don't have feelings. It means you can't express them. What he was expressing was disregard, lack of remorse. That doesn't have anything to do with autism. That has more to do with who Tanner is as a person than his diagnoses. So how about you not put his absolute lack of remorse, lack of giving a fuck for anyone else's feelings on autism? Because autism isn't you're an asshole who doesn't care about feelings. It means you can't express them. And how dare you kind of, as a professional, give that impression that people with autism don't have feelings or, are just devoid of them or don't know when things are right or wrong. Because I can tell you that, again, I worked with profoundly disabled people who still knew right from wrong.
explanation of what you see in the interrogation videos and the jail calls that you reviewed and some of the other evidence that you reviewed, is it possible for those interactions to be misconstrued?
Absolutely. So if you look at the words he said, his demeanor, so how he says things in the interrogation, and certainly following in his letters and in his calls, he would seem completely heartless and very inappropriate at times. And being able to look at it through the lens of somebody who's on the autism spectrum and recognizing breakdowns or differences in social communication is something that I was specifically looking for.
Do you think that testimony would assist the jury in deciding the ultimate issues in this case?
I think it could.
I think it could if you were actually a doctor that could medically diagnose autism. I think it would be great if you had a jawline that didn't remind me of Larry David. But, I'm trying to be nice here.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge.
Finish them, State. What in the Friday Night at Freddy's? What was that smile? Do we want to talk about insincere social cues? Because holy God, that looks psychotic. There was no, again, do we want to talk about the disconnect between, because as someone who may have the Spielbergians, do we want to talk about what the fuck that facial movement just was? Because we go from
Do you think that testimony would assist the jury in deciding the ultimate issues in this case?
I think it could.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge.
That's not a smile. That's a grimace. That's a baring of teeth. I don't know. Like I said, the way I express is that I honestly catch all of the micro expressions and they disconnect to her eyes. So I am very, very scared of her right now. like my lizard brain is saying her eyes don't connect to any of the emotions that she is showing. She is obviously covering up whatever emotion she really feels, and I don't trust her. That's what my lizard brain is saying. And you'd think that if she worked with people who maybe process things differently or absolutely notice every single micro gesture, you know, that this would be something that she wouldn't do.
On your specific conclusions, are you just going to be talking about those 2 diagnoses that are in your report?
I'm not sure. Do you mean what will I be asked during direct or?
What are you going to testify specifically about Tanner Horner?
So the way that his social communication deficits, along with related, because I am an autism disorder specialist and expert, his related difficulties can be evidenced throughout the crime and his behavior afterwards.
And do you have specific examples of that?
Yes.
And what are those?
So I'm going to look at, or would like to talk about issues relating to theory of mind deficits, central coherence challenges, profound social communication challenges, which goes hand in hand with nonverbal communication, or the use of conversational rules and routines, and also understanding of social norms, executive functioning challenges. All of those are a part of what we see in autism, and what I specifically was looking at with.
Does your specialty exist to take away the agency of autistic people? Do you believe that people with autism are still capable of making choices of a moral value? Or do you think that because of their diagnosis, they are immediately robbed of any sort of moral agency?
Mr. Horner.
And did you find specific examples of that?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are those?
So I guess I'm not sure how in depth I'm supposed to go, but I can give you, so I guess I wonder how, just go ahead and talk. Okay, so some specifics then would be the fact that his pragmatics that's social communication, highly impaired. And he has what we call basic functional communication and an understanding of social norms in terms of scripted or typical, manners-based speech. So during the assessment, someone sneezed outside of the room and he's yelled out, "Bless you," because he knew that was an appropriate response. His difficulties come into play more with more nuanced or subtle aspects of communication.
How fucking subtle does "don't touch other people's kids" have to be? I'm confused. Even as not the most perceptive person, that seems to be a rule I've.
Things like narrative discourse, very difficult for him to tell a story in a linear fashion. He also has significant difficulty being able to express any sort of emotion. I believe that Mr. Horner has a condition known as alexithymia. It's a secondary.
Spell that for the court.
Sure.
Anima Rumpier, I like it. How can she comment on normal? Nothing about her is normal. I move this witness be disqualified for lack of subject matter jurisdiction, Your Honor. From your mouth to God's ears. Where is Dave? Does he have Prosecco? We need him to call the court.
It's ALEX. I gotta give me a second so I make sure I do that correctly. ALEXITHYMIA. And this is a common trait among individuals on the autism spectrum. It is a challenge for about 40 to 65% of individuals on the spectrum, as opposed to about 10% in the general population. It is a condition where you have difficulty being able to feel emotions the same way that those of us who are neurotypical, who do not have alexithymia, can feel them, and sort of an overall lack of awareness of their internal state. It also can affect their ability to express empathy or even remorse in a way that's considered prosocial.
And on this alexithymia, was that something that you diagnosed Tanner with, or are you relying on somebody else?
Myself. So alexithymia it's more of a trait than a formal diagnosis. And right now, the hallmark measure for diagnoses is actually a free instrument that's been made available called the Toronto Alexithymia Scale.
Can you really spell that?
Yes, sir. Toronto, and then Alexithymia, ALEXITHYMIA scale, and it's been revised, so it's 2.0. And
If she's describing having a difficult time understanding or naming your emotions, welcome to the real world when emotions, went from happy, sad, hungry to schmad, schmorny, I don't know, munchies. I mean, it- I, yeah, well, JKD Buck, he's Schrodinger's autistic. He is whatever that he needs to be for whatever witness he has. So he's highly functional for the girlfriend and can communicate and be emotionally available and then for this chick, he is again full of the tisms. This is so ridiculous.
it basically allows us to determine whether someone is able to describe their feelings, whether their thinking is externalized or internalized, whether they have difficulty identifying their own feelings, and whether they have difficulty, and I'm not sure if I said this one already, but describing their feelings. So Mr. Horner had difficulties in all aspects of
But how much of this is because he knows he's being observed? There is such a thing in science experiments, especially in the softer social sciences, of the observation effect. Now, that's even in physics, but that's because light is both a wave and a particle, and I don't even understand like any of that. So there you go. But I also am not Einstein and not sleeping with my first cousin. So, maybe there's correlation, causation. I don't know. I love that my brain's like, remember this fact about Einstein screwing his cousin? You should say that. And I'm like, but I'm not really talking about cousin screwing. And you're like, oh, but that's a pretty funny thing. Welcome to my internal monologue. That being said, where was I going on this? It just, it's was Tanner putting on more of an act? Was he acting more tismy because he knew this woman is an expert? Is she more prone to confirmation bias? Is she looking for people to be more in deficit? Again, what is her general outcome of diagnoses? Does she tend to do her diagnoses tend to follow the average? If we were to send Tanner to 3 other whatever she is, would they give the same kind of functional value of tisminess? I guess these are the things that really bother me about the social sciences. I guess with my more logical kind of brain, I have an issue with these particular parameters, and I do wonder if Tanner put more things on because he knew this was his defense witness, and I do wonder if the state had their own expert and if they will grade him as on a curve.
relating to alexithymia.
And you talked about empathy. How is empathy related to alexithymia?
So empathy in itself is sort of this ability for an individual to understand or feel what someone is experiencing. There's cognitive empathy, which is like, I see how you feel that way, versus affective empathy, which is, I feel it with you. And Mr. Horner had difficulties, I think, in expressing empathy. But I am going to also assert that I saw evidence of him possessing empathy, which is really
The fuck? Ma'am. I don't know if you can see beyond that really prominent forehead ridge of yours, but wherefore out thou empathy? Where did you pin Carmen San Diego me to the fucking GPS point on empathy? Sorry, you guys, this is a bit more cursey mo. Like I said, I had to listen to his ex-girlfriend pine over him. I have had like half of an adult beverage, but do what now?
In individuals on the autism spectrum.
And your evidence of him expressing empathy, was there anything that you were going to discuss that is not included in your report with regards to that?
Mhm. I'm sorry, just give me a moment to look at what I've included.
Yeah, you're fine.
Thank you. My intention is to talk about, and so I apologize for not answering you directly, but my intention is to talk about evidence in the jail calls, which I think is in the report, evidence in the interrogation. There's less empathy exhibited there. Also in, during the actual assessment, and I think that's in the report too.
And what part in the assessment was empathy?
So one thing that Mr. Horner would do is if he would see somebody being mistreated, for example, in a video scenario, he would express feelings of, saying that that person was being rude, or feeling sorry for a character in a video. Certainly demonstrated empathy for animals.
So wait, he can demonstrate empathy for the teenage fucking Ninja Mutant Turtles, but he couldn't give an ounce of empathy to the family or that little girl? Do you really understand what you're saying here? Because I'm ready to pull old Sparky, but you're making it real easy, ma'am. Like, well, he does have empathy for Captain Planet, and when the other, Ninja Turtles were mean to Donatello, he got sad and he wanted to tell Splinter. Who the fuck cares, ma'am?
So if he saw an animal that looked sad or was in a cage, he would express that both with his words and with his nonverbal language.
Are there any other, specific examples that you are going to be speaking about on these jail calls or interrogations?
I guess
in regards to your conclusions, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah. One aspect that I think is important, or as an important example, is when Mr. Horner's mother called him, and he called his mother, couldn't understand why his fellow inmates were looking at him like a monster. And his mother...
Because you are one. Yeah, nefarious shenanigan. I good God, does this defense want this MFer to fry like 35 times? I mean, at this point, the jury might be so pissed off at this man that they will lobby the state senate for a statute that we can continually shock his remains until they float away. Honestly, I thought that I wouldn't actively hate this man as much more after the defense. And Tammy, I hope you're okay. We're getting into some spicy stuff. Today hasn't been too terribly important. We've just gotten a lot of people that knew Tanner in the past, or there was his weird ex-girlfriend, but you don't need to deal with that shenanigans.
Knowing his difficulties in this area, had to directly put it in terms he could understand. And so therefore gave him that perspective taking, that goes to theory of mind as well, of what if this happened to your child, how would you then feel? And so with that additional prompt, then he could explain and understand how he, to some degree, made Athena's family feel.
Okay. And I believe that you listed in your report all the items that you have reviewed, correct?
Yes, and the items in the back are, the back 2 pages, I believe,
Yes.
are the extensive list of the records I've reviewed, with the exception of information I received from the defense after I'd written my report.
And what is that?
So that would be Dr. Imhoff and Dr. Spence's report, the report from Dr. Arumbala, as well as I believe, information that was provided by the state. So deposition transcripts, jail records, the abduction video, and prior bad acts.
This woman watched the entire video, and she's still going to take and make autism take the hit for this? Are you kidding me? I mean, ma'am, you have to realize what this is. Again, we don't want the stigma on autism. And you're probably one of the professionals that's like, let's not have a stigma. And now you are excusing this monstrous crime by labeling it autism. The only monster here is Tanner and Tanner's choice. But you are now allowing him to use the cloak of autism over his monster outfit and make that the monster. Do you understand what you're doing as a professional? Do you understand what you're co-signing?
I think that's a comprehensive list of the items I've reviewed that are not already reflected in the report.
And have you reviewed all those items?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you create a new report?
No, ma'am, I just recently got those.
And what are you going to testify to within regards to those specific items that are not included in this report? We can start with Imhoff and Spence. Are you going to testify anything related to the reports of Imhoff and Spence?
No, there was nothing new or surprising to me in their report.
Dr. Arambula, are you going to testify to anything with regards to anything in Dr. Arambula's report?
Right, nothing stands.
Should we start a D&D with with all the offensive stuff? I feel like it's something I would do. I've never played D&D, to be honest, so I don't know how good I would be. But I would definitely create that. I am not gonna lie. Or I would take a cloak of something else and call it that. Not gonna lie.
Out to me, so unless I was asked directly about it, it's, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, and I don't have it in front of me, but there was nothing in it that I planned on speaking about.
Okay. And the deposition transcripts, there was a lot of deposition transcripts.
Mhm.
Which specific deposition transcripts did you receive?
I received the one from Mr. Horner's mother and his grandmother, those two.
And those are the only ones?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you going to testify to anything with regards to anything in those deposition transcripts?
Yeah, I guess I don't think so unless I'm asked about them in particular.
If you were asked about them in particular, would you have anything to say about them? Is there anything that changes your opinion?
Nothing changes my opinion, no.
How about the abduction video?
Again, my opinion changed after watching the abduction video with regards to what Mr. Horner's meltdown would look like, because I could then see directly, his actions. So if I were asked specifically about the abduction video.
How dare you? Again, that wasn't a meltdown. This was a conscious choice. And again, just you work with people with autism who aren't this doofus. You understand what you're doing to all the rest of the people who might have a diagnosis now?
I have thoughts on that.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think that he doesn't demonstrate the emotion dysregulation that I typically see in individuals on the autism spectrum in the moments prior to and right at the time of the abduction. That said, I do see some evidence of his, and I want to say this in the right way, his increased dysregulation as the
Increased dysregulation. Miss, he asked her to take her clothes off. She said no. She told him why it was wrong. Okay?
criminal event is occurring. In other words, his language was kind, cautious, easy, and not scary at first. and then became, highly disrespectful and horrific towards Athena. So that change in his language was very evident to me, and something that I could only see once I had seen the video.
And that was surprising to you?
I think what was surprising was not being able to see the emotion dysregulation because of the fact that Mr. Horner is an affable gentleman who is, certainly has a good sense of humor, is articulate, and I expected to see more of the headbanging or of a very red face, some of the things that I see with,
Because he doesn't have emotional dysregulation to the point where he would do those things, because he is highly functional as an autist. How about that? You are trying to give him the cloak of being a low functioning autist, but he's not. So call a spade a spade. You can be autistic and evil. It's just a diagnosis. The evil is inside you or it isn't. And how dare you take what I am sure was a long and storied education and now use it for this?
Who's autistic, who's having a meltdown. That said, Mr. Horner in the interrogation describes a period of disassociation without using that word, kind of losing time or, feeling like he wasn't in control of his actions. That I can also see. And to be honest with you, you've heard the adage that when you've seen one person with autism, you've seen one person with autism. It can look very different. So his emotion dysregulation, taking a sort of quieter lens, is not, it was surprising to me, yes, but it's not without precedence.
You also mentioned you reviewed the prior bad acts. Was there anything in there that you reviewed that
No,
changed your opinion or that you will testify to today?
no, ma'am.
So you are perfectly okay saying that autism made him do those things to those two surviving victims that are still alive. You're going to say that was some sort of, I don't know, emotional dysregulation, or he just couldn't figure out, consent. Is that really what you want to give the free reign to? I'm just making sure, ma'am. How much is the defense paying you?
What did Tanner Horner tell you about what he did?
Mr. Horner told me that he backed into her because the backup camera was not working. He also told me that he strangled her. I would say that the story that he gave me at the time of the evaluation was very similar to what he told the investigators in the interrogation.
So he liked you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he tell you anything about sexually assaulting Athena Strand?
No, ma'am, and I didn't ask.
Why? No. If you want to go ahead and give your expert opinion, I would think that as an expert with your name attached to this, you would want to know every detail, because you are effectively co-signing all of this under the cloak of autism. Trademark, Mo merchandise. It will be there. It'll probably have rhinestones and a donkey on it, to be honest. But, it can be personalized. I'm going to start making cloaks. People are going to be like, what's that? I'm going to wear it when I go out to Walmart. I swear to God. Sorry, you guys. I am really sorry, I guess. This is just difficult to watch.
Judge Alpha, please.
Redirect.
Just briefly, Dr. Fritz, will you be able to testify to any of the comorbidities or co-occurring diagnoses that Tanner possesses?
Yes, I feel comfortable because of my many years of experience in working with individuals on the spectrum to talk about common comorbidities. And having reviewed the reports of Dr. Specht, along with Dr. Davies, I believe I can opine on those issues relating to lead toxicity and fetal alcohol syndrome.
And so will you testify about how all of those diagnoses work together?
Yes.
And based upon your training experience, is that something that you were able to do?
Yes. So within my scope, I certainly would never make a mental health diagnosis. I would never, talk about a specific medical condition outside of my scope. However, comorbid traits and how those and how the communication is hindered or affected by them is certainly within my wheelhouse.
Any other moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Dewar?
And for the judge.
Thank you, ma'am. You step back in the office.
Thank you, sir.
It looks like they went to lunch. So
Any objections from the state?
No objection, Judge.
Okay. All right. We will start no later than 1 o'clock. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I actually, in my absolute, well, look, I overflow with craft hobbies that I do. Now, you guys don't know that right before I got hurt, I was getting into garment making. So I do have an old 1800, or well, it's a pattern based on 1800s cloak that looks fairly simple. So in the next coming months, when Mr. Mo is able to work on my office, I should be able to get my. All right, here's the full screen Mofessional. I may or may not have gone a little nutty during the coof, and I may be the only non-Amish person to have a modern treadle sewing machine. You know, it's not an it's hysterical to me looking back that I didn't get tested as a child. But yes, I do have my very own treadle sewing machine. I'm not lying. I kind of wish that I were joking, but I'm not. It's a good machine. I like it, and I was worried that everything was gonna fail those first little bit. So, I figured it would be good to have a sewing machine that didn't run on power because I knew I needed to still craft. If all of society went down, I still needed to craft. No, a treadle sewing machine. So, you know, like those 1800. Um, so I was able to find an older one, and then they do have modern sewing machines that you can attach to the older mounts. So that's basically what Mr. Mo did for me. And then I got hurt and didn't really go downstairs. But yeah, I am excited to get back to sewing. But yeah, that is my weird thing. Like if you ever needed a modern pedal sewing machine, I have one. And oh Lord.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Fritz. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you.
Now, Dr. Fritz, would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, of course. So my name is Jeannie Fritz, and I'm a speech language pathologist.
What does a speech language pathologist do?
Sure. So speech language pathologist is a professional that works with individuals on different areas of communication. We work on receptive and expressive communication, which is someone's ability to understand what we're saying to them as well as express themselves verbally. We work on social communication, which is the way that we use language between people. We work on cognition. So if you know anyone who's had a stroke, they've probably been evaluated by an SLP. Some SLPs work on swallowing disorders, but I don't. We also have SLPs that work on voice disorders. So if you know somebody that has a different sounding voice, they might work with a speech pathologist. Fluency disorders, which you think of as stuttering. So it's a wide variety of issues that we address, and we also work with people across the lifespan. So I have colleagues that work in neonatal units, and I have colleagues that are working with people at end of life.
And Dr. Fritz, do you have any area of specialty?
Sure. So
Okay, that was a normal skip, so the skies are darkening, but we should be able to get through this.
1999, and I have specialized most of that time in autism spectrum disorder. That has been especially the case for the last 11 years or so, but I have been working with individuals on the spectrum since the very beginning of my career. In fact, I was placed in the first classroom in the state of Ohio that was full of all children with autism, because at the time that the prevalence, so that's the number of people in the population that had autism, was so low that there wasn't a big need for those kinds of classrooms until that time. I was a workie coming out of grad school, so they put me in the classroom, and I ended up falling in love with the population.
And Dr. Fritz, tell the jury a little bit about your educational background.
Sure. So my undergrad is in English and reading education. I went to a small school in Ohio, and I always consider myself an educator first. My master's degree then is in speech pathology, and I went to the Ohio State University for that. Don't hold it against me if you're not a Buckeye fan. And then my doctorate degree is from Ball State University, and that's in special education with a cognate area focus in speech pathology.
Yeah, you said that your practice focuses on individuals with.
As a member or citizen of the state that houses Ball State University, I apologize on behalf of Indiana, but I'm not sending any of my kids to Ball State, so you know. That being said, it's a nice school, but I apologize that we were a part of this woman's education.
Autism. And you said that you fell in love with the population. What was it about the population that made you fall in love with them?
I think I have a penchant for the neurodiverse because individuals on the spectrum are, it's kind of like what you see is what you get. None of the, to be fair, I work almost exclusively with individuals who have level 1 autism. So there are 3 levels. And level 1 is the highest functioning level. So I work with individuals who have very sort of nuanced or subtle difficulties with, say, their social communication. But with my
Northern Light, are you asking about the child that the defendant had? I believe that the son of the defendant is with the maternal grandmother. I don't believe that the ex-fiance has custody, but I am not quite sure what happened to the baby. I tend not to look into the defendant or the victim's family and stick more to what's known in court, but those speculations are gathered from what I've understood in court.
Clients, I can directly explain social rules to them, and I don't offend them. They just haven't learned them before. So to me, it's a really refreshing population to work with.
And Dr. Fritz, you had mentioned that you are currently a speech language pathologist. Where are you working?
So I work for myself. I'm self-employed. My practice is called Cedar Tree Communication Therapy, and I'm based out of Florida. And I started my practice 1 week before the world shut down. And I had an office I was paying rent on for 18 months and pivoted to telehealth like the rest of the world. And it ended up being wonderful for me and for my clients because they're very comfortable joining me via computer, and we're making really good progress. So I can see clients remotely, and that's about 60% of the work I do. The other 40% is working on forensic cases like this.
You said that it seems that your clients enjoy the remote aspect of the evaluations in your meetings more. Why do you think that is?
I think it takes away a level of stress in terms of not having to go out into the social world. And the concern becomes whether there's going to be what we call generalization. So will they use the skills that we work on in the individualized sessions and then be able to apply them in real life? And I was really pleased when I surveyed my clients when the world started opening back up. I think at that time I had about 42 clients and only one of them wanted to come in person. So it's comfortable for them because you're meeting them in their home environment. I also don't have clients miss sessions because of the fact that if they're not on the session in 2 or 3 minutes after the start time, I'll text them. and they'll join me from wherever they are. And that's very convenient for them. It's easy for me too.
Dr. Fritz, one thing I forgot to ask you about, are you certified in your field?
I am. So in order to be a speech language pathologist, you have to be licensed. And then you also can opt to get national certification. So my national board is called the American Speech Language and Hearing Association. And it is a governing body for speech pathologists and audiologists. And if you choose, you can do what's called a certification of clinical competence. We call it our C's. And if you get your C's, then you're nationally certified. It takes about a 9-month period of time where you're being supervised by a mentor. And then you take that certification, and that allows for the credibility to be recognized by the board. And then you have to keep up that credentialing through continuing education throughout your career.
Dr. Fritz, have you ever presented at professional conferences?
Yes, so I've presented at several state conferences. I also have done some work presenting at the local level, done lots of parent trainings, lots of educator trainings in the state of Florida and some in Indiana and Ohio as well.
Is it just the parents, or do you present to other organizations?
Sure, so parents are a big one, educators are another big one, and it might surprise you to know that we also do a lot of training with law enforcement. And the reason for that can be multifold. It started off early in this world of
Yeah, I will be going for as long as this is. I have in about an hour. So if we do end up leaving a bit early, what we will do is just start a little early tomorrow.
autism is being able to help law enforcement understand what autism was and how somebody with autism might present. And then over time, it's kind of merged into individuals on the spectrum going through and becoming law enforcement officers themselves. And typically they do really well when they get through the academy, learning how to follow the rules, understanding procedures. But then when you go into, the field training, which is more dynamic, minute by minute decision making, it tends to be a bigger challenge. And so with this extensive increase in the amount of autism in our community, we see autistic individuals in every career, every field. And so knowing how to best support them is an important part of what I do.
And Dr. Fritz, I think you may have said this before, but do you work in both the clinical and forensic fields?
Yes. So I consider myself a clinician first. The forensic work is important to me because it's important to me to make sure that justice involves clients.
Okay, you guys, why is it that I need to know where Steve Gutenberg is? Because we are getting Autist on Patrol, Police Academy 6. We are making this. Look, this is the year it could happen. Spaceballs, the new one is coming out. I say we get Steve Gutenberg back if he's still alive. I hope he's alive. And we need a Police Academy 7 Autist on Patrol. Honest to goodness, mainly because my brain is that way, but that would be a funny movie. I'm just saying. And in genuine respect, if you are neurospicy and you have gotten to the police station, awesome. For some reason, that's where my brain took it. It legitimately got Steve Gutenberg and went Citizens on Patrol, only not that.
Are understood in light of their autism. I think perhaps my favorite is when I can work with a client who either has become justice involved or is in danger of becoming criminally involved, and we can work on sort of rehabilitative social cognition strategies to avoid future justice involvement.
Have you testified in both state and federal courts?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Dr. Fritz, I want to turn your attention to this case in particular.
Okay.
Were you retained by the defense in this case?
Yes, I was.
What were you asked to do?
To evaluate Mr. Horner and any relevant collaterals, just other people who he was familiar with or who were familiar with him, and determine what, if any, presence of autism and its related social communication deficits were relevant in the current case.
What have you done so far in this case?
Sure. So I spent a lot of time reviewing records. So we look at educational records to get a good understanding of a client's history. I also looked at social history as much as it was available. So that's information about Mr. Horner's family life and how that might be relevant. I examined some medical records because he's had quite a few associated medical conditions and hospitalizations. Also did some interview with Mr. Horner directly, along with direct assessment with both him and with his grandmother.
And Dr. Fritz, what is your normal hourly fee for your forensic work?
So it ranges depending on what I'm doing. If I'm traveling to come to a case or to go evaluate somebody, there's one rate. If I'm doing something high pressure, like sitting here talking to you, there's another rate. It averages out to $370.
That was something different again. So at least I know when it is, I believe that was power. So I think that was actually a power supply. Now, where were we were way back at the beginning, unfortunately.
You know, minute by minute decision making, it tends to be a bigger challenge. And so with this extensive increase in the amount of autism in our community, we see autistic individuals in every career, every field. And so knowing how to best support them is an important part of what I do.
And Dr. Fritz, I think you may have said this before, but do you work in both the clinical and forensic fields?
Yes. So I consider myself a clinician first. The forensic work is important to me because it's important to me to make sure that justice-involved clients are understood in light of their autism. I think perhaps my favorite is when I can work with a client who either has become justice involved or is in danger of becoming criminally involved, and we can work on, you know, sort of rehabilitative social.
They are headed my way. They're about an hour out, so we will keep going for as long as we can. And if you are in the general Midwest, I'm in Midwest. I'm in the middle of Indiana, so you know, if you are in Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, do check out your forecast, Ryan Hall or Max Velocity, whoever you choose, just so you are aware.
Cognition strategies to avoid future justice involvement.
Have you testified in both state and federal courts?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Dr. Fritz, I want to turn your attention to this case in particular.
Okay.
Were you retained by the defense in this case?
Yes, I was.
What were you asked to do?
To evaluate Mr. Horner and any relevant collaterals, just other people who he was familiar with or who were familiar with him, and determine what, if any, presence of autism and its related social communication deficits were relevant in the current case.
What have you done so far in this case?
Sure. So I spent a lot of time reviewing records. So we look at educational records to get a good understanding of a client's history. I also looked at social history as much as it was available. So that's information about Mr. Horner's family life and how that might be relevant. I examined some medical records because he's had quite a few associated medical conditions and hospitalizations. Also did some interview with Mr. Horner directly, along with direct assessment with both him and with his grandmother.
And Dr. Fritz, what is your normal hourly fee for your forensic work?
So it ranges depending on what I'm doing. If I'm traveling to come to a case or to go evaluate somebody, there's one rate. If I'm doing something high pressure, like sitting here talking to you, there's another rate. It averages out to $370 an hour.
Approximately how many hours have you put into this case?
So far, let's see, close to 100 hours.
And how much have you been paid so far?
So I think right around 15,000.
Do you know what your outstanding bill is as of today, April the 27th of 2026?
Hopefully my assistant does, but I'm going to guess that it's somewhere around 15 to 20.
1,000?
Yes, ma'am.
And Dr. Fritz, did you prepare a report of your findings?
I did.
Texas taxpayer, I hope you appreciate spending nearly $40,000 on this chick.
Did you provide the court a copy of your resume?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I believe we have already offered defense exhibits 75 and 76 for all purposes.
It's 76 and 77, and
I was close.
they have been admitted.
Madam Clerk, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Fritz, I'm going to hand you what has been offered and admitted into evidence as exhibits number 76 and 77. If you'll just take a look at those, please.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And what is exhibit number 77?
Number 77 is a copy of my resume. You might also hear it called a CV. But I'm a clinician rather than a researcher or publisher, so mine looks more like a typical resume.
And defense exhibit number 76.
We're under a warning too. So
What is that, please?
That's the formal report I wrote of my speech language assessment of Mr. Horner.
You can hold on to this.
Okay.
Just have to give them to the court reporter.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to give them to you. I'm going to give them to her now because otherwise, yeah, I don't want to walk off with them. Thank you.
Dr. Fritz, you had talked about records that you had reviewed. Is there a comprehensive list of all the records that you've reviewed attached to the report that you provided?
Yes, with some notable exceptions. So the last 2 pages of the report list all of the records that I reviewed prior to writing my report. But then since I've submitted my report, I've received some other pieces of information, videos, and records to review that are not explicitly contained in the report.
Did any of the new information that you received change any of your opinions that are contained in your report?
Not significantly, no.
And the list of records that you reviewed, or I should say in the records that you reviewed, can you give the jury just kind of an overview of what kinds of records you were looking at?
Sure. So this is when I was looking at educational records, the medical records, the jail calls, interrogation videos, the body cameras from the police officers. I also looked at some depositions. So when individuals who know Mr. Horner well were deposed by the court, then I read those transcripts. I think that's generally the main ones.
Dr. Fritz, in this case, did you perform any testing on
I
Mr.
did.
Horner?
And I want to go back, Ms. Anderson, for just a moment, because I was remiss in not mentioning the fact that I also reviewed some other experts' reports. So, I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yes, Well, I'll just build on that. You said that you had reviewed the reports of other experts. The reports that you reviewed from the other experts, did those experts do any testing?
Yes,
Did their reports contain the results of the testing?
yes.
Did you use the results of their testing and
I have not seen it just yet. I've been kind of swamped, and trying to help Mr. Mo with a couple of things this weekend, but I will check it out tonight. Hopefully, we still have power.
formulating your opinions today?
No, not directly. The only exception to that would be reports relating to diagnoses of fetal alcohol syndrome and lead-based toxicity. And really, the only influence that that has is to mention that several of the deficits that I noted in Mr. Horner's social communication can be caused by those conditions as well as by autism.
Did you rely solely on the records to form your opinion?
Solely on the records, the interview, my clinical observations, and the direct assessment.
So let's talk about your clinical observations and direct assessment. Were you able to meet with Tanner?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times did you meet with him?
I met with him across 2 consecutive days while he was in the jail.
About how long were your meetings with Tanner?
I think we were 3 hours one day and 4 hours the next, or vice versa.
During your meetings with Tanner, did you do any testing?
I did.
And can you give the jury just kind of a brief overview of the type of testing that you were giving?
Sure. So I was looking at communication in particular. So I looked at assessments that are designed to determine his level of expressive and receptive language. Remember, I told you expressive is like how well you get a message across, and receptive is how well you understand. I looked at social communication, that functional language use. I also looked at vocabulary, both receptive, so how much he's understanding, and how much he's producing, which is expressive vocabulary.
Did you interview anyone else as a part of your evaluation?
Yes, ma'am. I interviewed Mr. Horner's grandmother.
Is she what we might call a collateral witness?
Yes, ma'am.
How important is it when making these assessments that the evaluator reach out to collateral witnesses?
I think it's critical, and this isn't an offense to Mr. Horner. It tends to be true of the population, that a lot of individuals on the spectrum are not great self-reporters. Sometimes that's just because we don't know what we don't know. And so level of self-awareness can affect accuracy in reporting. And so it's really helpful if you can have the opportunity to talk to collateral witnesses.
What can the collateral witnesses provide to you that you can't get from reading a deposition or reading a medical record or education record?
Yeah. So, the records give us the black and white. And a collateral witness can give you a little bit more of the gray areas. You can talk about how you really saw deficits affect the person day to day. And so I think that was the main purpose that I got out of it. Also just to verify that this has been a lifelong condition. Because one thing that, if you don't know already, you'll learn about autism is it's a diagnosis that is present from the time of birth and is present throughout life. So there's no cure for autism. Most of us in the field say that we're not looking for a cure for autism because it's a difference. And at the same time, we recognize that it is a lifelong condition. And so seeing and talking to somebody who has that lifelong perspective helps validate the results that I found in testing.
Well, let's talk about the results that you found in the testing. Please give the jury a brief summary of your findings from the testing.
Sure. So in short, His receptive and expressive skills are, it's a horrible diagnosis, guys. It's mild to severe. It's severely impaired. The reason it sounds like that is because Mr. Horner has what we call splinter skills. So some of his skills are really within normal limits or rather high. He's pretty good at following directions until they get too complex. He's got some good ability to answer direct questions, but for questions that require things like inferencing or a lot of recall is harder for him. So some of his skills, and vocabulary is another one. It's a nice strength of his, with totally within normal limits. Whereas some of the challenges that he presents with are rather severe. So being able to understand and use more nuanced or subtle language, being able to change your language based on the environment or the context that you're in.
So, and I'm gonna stop
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
there. What do you mean by subtle language?
So subtleties in language are the difference in how we say something, not just what we say. So if I were to say to you, how you doing? Joey from Friends, right? You would know that I was being flirtatious. It wasn't a great flirtatious imitation there, but you get the point. Whereas if
Yeah, ma'am, maybe don't add impressions to your comedy repertoire. How you doing? I mean, what? That was supposed to be Joey from Friends?
I said something like, how are you doing? I'm being empathetic or showing concern. And that goes into that social language piece, but also we see it evidenced in more complex sort of sentence structures. So things like concept words were harder for Mr. Horner to understand and to be able to use in his own speech. He also has a significant difficulty with what's called narrative discourse skills.
What is that?
Yeah, it's being able to tell a story in a linear fashion. So when we tell a story, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. We start the story, we introduce the problem, you have the problem solving aspect, and then you conclude the story. And Mr. Horner does not have the ability to do that.
And Dr. Fritz, you mentioned mild to severe mixed receptive expressive language disorder. Was there any other diagnosis that you gave Tanner?
Yes. So I've told you already, he has profound deficits in his social communication. We call that social pragmatics. Because of the fact that I know that those deficits are secondary to a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, the diagnosis itself sounds pretty convoluted. So let me read it for you. It is, give me 1 second, guys. Symbolic dysfunction relating to pragmatic communication secondary to an organic disorder of autism spectrum disorder. I told you it's convoluted. But what that means is just social language challenges.
And Dr. Fritz, were there any other diagnoses?
Does she not realize how odd that grimace smile is? You would think that if she worked with people on the spectrum, they would have pointed out that's very disconcerting.
That pertaining to Tanner that you found relevant for your evaluations and or your testimony here today?
So there's kind of an informal diagnosis of something called alexithymia, which is difficulty with understanding your own internal state and being able to express emotions, understand the emotions of others appropriately. It's fairly common in autism. We see it in about 45 to 60% of autistics, whereas in the general population, it's about 10%. And also, as I mentioned before, the lead toxicity and fetal alcohol syndrome diagnoses that I read about from other experts also are comorbid conditions that are relevant. I would also mention the mental health diagnoses that are really well documented for Mr. Horner, things like, severe depression, history of significant self-harm and so forth. That all goes into play.
Denise, believe it or not, she is saying all of these things after watching the uncensored video. Again, exactly what the jury was able to listen to, and she's still making these excuses. I don't know whether to blame this on lightning or, the storm coming closer or just, but it has been a little bit more hiccupy, but I think it might be storms.
Understanding where he is now in terms of his functional communication.
I want to take you back to the symbolic dysfunction relating to pragmatic communication. What is pragmatic communication?
So it is language functioning. So it's the use of language and doing so for social purposes.
Why is it important?
Well, I'm a little biased, but communication is important for every aspect of life. When you're a child, then social communication is how you make friends and how you become well-liked by your educators. When you're getting older, it's how you ask a girl on a date and get her to say yes. It's then how you interview effectively for a job. It also has to do with being able to maintain those relationships over time. So it's, you hear about, for example, relationships falling apart. And the number one reason we hear about is that we had a lack of communication, and that's social communication.
What does it mean to have a symbolic dysfunction related to that pragmatic communication?
It's just the terminology I have to use because he has a primary diagnosis of autism, which autism itself is made by the diagnosis is made by having those challenges in social pragmatic skills and then having a set of restricted or repetitive patterns of behavior or interests. So I say it's like two sides of a coin, and social communication is one side of that coin.
Well, how much of the criteria for diagnosis of autism is related to communication?
So so if you think of it as
How can you explain the fact that in the 80s, 90s, and early aughts, millions, if not, well, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of girls were underdiagnosed or were able to mask their high functioning autism and then, were able to cope? How is it that girls, bunches of them, hundreds of them, maybe even thousands, were undiagnosed or underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed as having only ADHD when they had some component of autism in there, and yet they didn't go on to be violent? How many undiagnosed boys were there that were just seen as ADHD?
two sides of the coin, you have to have all three of the indicators for difficulties in social communication, and then you have to have two of the four patterns of restricted or repetitive interests and behaviors. Those would be things that you think of when you hear about autism, things like sensory differences or insistence on sameness. Whereas the issues relating to social communication have to do with things like social emotional reciprocity, understanding nonverbal communication, and being able to follow conversational acts and turn-taking rules, and being able to build and maintain interpersonal relationships.
Well, doctor, let me ask you this. Can a person be diagnosed with autism without having those social communication deficits?
No, ma'am.
So what kind of social communication deficits or challenges do you typically see in your patients?
So in my field, there's an adage that says if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And so it can look different for different people, but we see commonalities, challenges with things like emotion regulation, being able to manage their reactions to problems. We see difficulties with conversational skills and routines, maybe interrupting a lot, or not knowing when it's their turn to participate, or difficulty sliding into a group conversation. See difficulties with things like making and maintaining friendships. I also see a lot of clients working on being able to send messages where the messages they send match their intentions, whether that's nonverbal or verbal.
Did you see any of these social communication deficits in Tanner?
Yes, I saw all of them in Mr. Horner.
I want to go back to some of the testing that you did.
Okay.
Specifically talking about assessing pragmatic communication. Is there a particular test or set of tests that you give related to assessing the pragmatic communication?
Sure. So because of Mr. Horner's age, it's not like I can give you a standardized score and say, here's how impaired his social pragmatics are, because we just don't have those assessments available for adults. But what I gave him was an instrument that is a video-based instrument. It provides normative information, so standardized information for somebody up until the age of 18. But it basically shows a little social scenario, and then you ask the client, did something go wrong here? And either something did or didn't go wrong, and the client then has to identify what went wrong and how it should be fixed.
What did these tests show?
Well, that one in particular is a direct assessment of his ability to read nonverbal communication, which is highly in deficit, to use certain what we call speech acts, which is ways that we use social language or language for different functions, like apologizing or complimenting, making requests, and he had deficits in all of those areas. I also gave him an assessment that is an interview-based assessment that's called the Self-Pragmatics Profile. And that one allows me to look at conversational routines along with nonverbal communication skills and the ability to ask for and obtain information.
Dr. Fritz, in looking at the sum total of all of the testing that you gave Mr. Horner related to pragmatic communication, how well did he perform? Specifically with regards to social pragmatic communication, he was one of the worst, if not the worst, evaluations I've ever given. Mr. Horner has significant difficulty with social appropriateness. So inappropriate use of humor, very lax in his understanding and use of those speech acts. So, the inability to form an appropriate way of asking for something, we'll say, or requesting clarification or offering an apology. So across the board, it's an area that definitely was a problem for him growing up, and it continues to be in deficit.
Now, Dr. Fritz, we're talking about deficits. Did you also notice any strengths in his testing?
Yeah, so Mr. Horner has some nice strengths in, you could think of it kind of as functional basic communication. So things like, during the evaluation, someone sneezed in another room and he yelled out, "Bless you," which appropriateness, we typically don't say bless you to somebody in a different room. And at the same time, he understands that that's a typical response when someone sneezes. So responding to greetings, for example, is easier for him than being the one to
No, that's mimicry. He saw people around him and he mimicked appropriate behavior. Now, whether he actually cognitively knows that that's the appropriate thing to say, no, that's mimicry. He can pantomime being a
to initiate them. He also did a nice job with, as I mentioned before, that sort of basic vocabulary and the basic understanding of what should be said to appear friendly or, polite.
You mean he can pretend to be nice to predate on his victims? He's able to understand the social functions enough to be nice, play act being friendly.
So please and thank you kind of things.
When we are talking about diagnoses and looking at test results, as an evaluator and as a clinician, do you focus on the strengths or the deficits, or are they treated the same?
Diagnosis itself is more deficit driven. And that's something that's hard for me as a clinician because I have to then turn around and explain that to my client. Here's all the things I are saying and wrong with you. But we always try to start with building on their strengths when we're working with someone therapeutically then.
And Dr. Fritz, did you give a test related to paralinguistic signals?
Yes, so that's a part of the CAP, and the CAPS assessment has a subtest that looks at tone of voice and facial expressions and other what we call extra linguistic cues.
RJ and Elsie, am I remembering incorrectly, or wasn't he a FedEx driver? If so, this doesn't sound like he shouldn't have been able to function in that capacity at all well. Yes, he was incredibly high functioning. What he was kind of labeled as before they changed it was Asperger's, which kind of denoted that you were pretty high functioning and able to kind of integrate into society, but you may have had noticeable deficits in communication. But I believe that they call it ASD now, and it's level 1 rather the way they classify it. So he was incredibly high functioning. He was able to have multiple different jobs. Now, high functioning, was he a functional adult? Absolutely not. But he didn't have a lot of interaction with the police prior to this. He didn't have a lot of, interactions with the police, like he didn't know it was inappropriate to not wear pants or things like that. Again, he didn't have a problem understanding what was required in society, in my opinion. But they are trying to make it sound as though he was extremely, extremely deficient.
Like phrasing, and he did not correctly interpret any of those sort of hidden emotions in others, nor was he able to demonstrate when I would say to him something like, how would you say this? His ability to match intention with his message is really poor.
Why is that important?
It's important because it causes breakdowns in how you're perceived by others.
So is it possible to say one thing, but you really need another, and somebody interprets it a third way?
Sure.
How common is that with people on the spectrum?
It's a very common challenge that I work with clients on.
You mentioned CAPS. What does that stand for?
The clinical, I want to make sure I get it right. Hold on, sorry. Clinical assessment of pragmatics.
Okay. And these other tests are just subtests of that clinical assessment?
Yes, that's correct.
And Dr. Fritz, you also mentioned alexithymia. Am I
Mhm.
saying that right?
It's alexithymia.
Alexithymia earlier. Can you give us a little more explanation on what it is and how that plays into the CAPS evaluation?
Sure. So the alexithymia is actually evaluated somewhat informally through a Likert type of assessment. That's when you get strongly agree versus agree and so forth.
Thanks, Tina, for the kind of functional breakdown because I don't want to. I'm trying to use lay people's terms, but there is such a spectra about it that I don't want to. And I'm not a doctorologist, so, but yeah, it seems like he was, you know, function-ish. He didn't maintain a job. He didn't seem to be able to maintain adult functional human skills, but he did seem to be able to fool society enough to believe he was capable of driving a FedEx truck or a subsidiary subcontractor.
And his answers all indicated that he was sort of largely unaware of his own emotional experiences, and that can lead to strain then in interpersonal relationships. Alexithymia in general means like that difficulty understanding your emotions, but then also difficulty communicating those to others.
I feel like I resemble that remark, and I'm getting uncomfortable. But that's the thing. You know, a lot of us maybe don't understand schmad or schmappy or all of the confusing feelings that we have, but we don't take our collective, weird emotions out on other people because that's a choice.
Switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about autism.
Okay.
How much of your practice is devoted to patients with autism?
Probably about 95%. I do also have some clients that have social communication deficits specific to anxiety, and so like social anxiety.
You previously said that you had reviewed records in this case.
Mhm.
Based upon your review of the records, were you able to determine if Tanner had a historical diagnosis for autism?
Yes, it was diagnosed when he was young, and there were multiple indications of that diagnosis being confirmed throughout, which is really not even necessary. Once you're autistic, you're autistic. It doesn't go away.
And Dr. Fritz, what was that initial diagnosis?
He was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and you've probably heard that term before, but it's a historic diagnosis. We no longer use that term. And it's basically what we now would call level 1 autism. Some individuals who are diagnosed with Asperger's hang on to that, feel that it's a strong sense of their personal identity. They may even call themselves an Aspie. And at the same
Okay, not gonna lie, I would totally call myself that. I would be like, no one takes my label away from me. Because look, it does become something that's a bit of your identity. I mean, if I woke up cured tomorrow, I think it would be a little bit odd because the last 5 years of my life have been so defined by CRPS. So I'd be super happy, but given my brain, I'd be really confused about it.
time, it's not a diagnosis that a psychologist or a neuropsychologist would give at this time.
You had just said that some people identify themselves as Aspies.
Mm-hmm.
Is that uncommon to, if when you first meet somebody, say, hi, my name is Susan, I have Asperger's?
It would be uncommon because of the fact that I think we're still in a society where we're trying to understand neurodivergence as a difference as opposed to a deficit. It's something that I hope is becoming.
What do you think is going to make autism seem like a deficit more? Having me, possibly be neurospicy or trying to excuse a mother effing monster by saying, "Oh, it's just autism. Oopsie doopsies." Which do you think is gonna be more stigma creating?
More common as I work a lot on self-advocacy with my clients.
How important is self-advocacy?
It's huge. It's pretty much everything. Being able to let people know what you want and need and why.
Oh my god, could we just skip to the state's expert? Like, seriously, can the state expert just be one of us neurospicy people, and they'll say, "Hey, are you neurospicy? Do you have self-control?" "Yes, yes, I do." "Oh, good." And it'll just be a line of us Aspies up there saying, "We all have self-control. We don't know him, he doesn't go here. He's not part of the plastic. Stop trying to make fetch happen."
Is really critical. And it's something that, we do it in ways that are subtle when we don't get to have autism. But autistics sometimes have to be directly taught how to self-advocate in ways that are appropriate. I always say it's not about a crutch. It's not an excuse. It's an explanation.
So you're not saying that autism is the reason that he committed this offense?
No, ma'am.
You're not saying that autism is an excuse for this offense, are you?
Absolutely not.
Is autism a defense for what happened?
No, not at all in terms of guilt or innocence. Mr. Horner, by all accounts, knew right from wrong, and there's no reason to believe that an autistic doesn't know right from wrong. It can be a mitigating factor.
Shouldn't we say autistic person? Like, I don't know. I feel like, oh god, am I turning into a genlennial woman and I feel like I should jump on the advocacy of others? I the reason it strikes me is because she strikes me as very much a person who would be offended if anyone else in any other circumstance said, "It's not like an autist can't feel." The way she's saying it seems like, in a tone and the way she's saying it would be a way that she would attack others for saying it, so I am quite surprised that she isn't saying, a person with autism, or again, when she's all about self-advocacy and advocacy for people with autisms to just say an autist, it's a little weird to me, again, just with her general seems to be behavior and attitude. This is where I get confused because I intake what I would understand to be her general values by what she said, and then she'll use a word kind of out of turn that I would think she would find offensive. That's where I get confused.
If you consider the influence then of his actions, especially after the crime, and I'm sure you've heard lots about, or you're going to hear a lot about, things like the jail calls and the police interrogation and his behaviors during those situations. And I think that's where, considering his language, his speech acts in light of that diagnosis is where it's most relevant.
Dr. Fritz, we've talked about some of the medical records that you reviewed. Did you also have the opportunity to?
I believe she has testified in a forensic capacity. Again, I believe that this defense team seems to be doing a lot of the capital punishment cases in Texas. So she might have a general relationship with her practice or the organization that does these kind of cases.
Review his school records.
I did.
Did those school records include his special education records?
Yes.
Were those records, or why are those records important to your evaluation?
Sure. Well, Mr. Horner was in a self-contained classroom for a few years. His behavior had become such that they didn't feel like they could manage it in a regular education environment. And the methodology that was used at that time is something called It's called the Boys Town model. It's positive.
Hey, you guys, I hate to do this, but it sounds like the rain's getting pretty heavy. And since this, even though it is somewhat spicy and temperamental, it's in its own right, I am probably going to shut down the computer so it doesn't explodorate in case the lightning comes. Let me get you guys redirected on YouTube. And wish you guys the best, but I definitely do not want to electrify my computer, which y I know it's probably not something that happens anymore with surge protectors, but I still really get nervous about it, which is probably such a dorky thing. I am going to send you guys over to, um oh, you guys, Kat Not Williams is back streaming, so go over and give her some love. I am definitely excited she is back on the YouTubes, and, I would try to go to her chat, but I'm going to be shutting down my computer. So, as always, thank you guys for hanging out uh with us for this harder trial. We will be starting a little early so we can get all of this in. And be careful if you are in the storm areas. Listen to your local news or Ryan Hall and Max Velocity. Bye, you guys.